Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 338, and we are live. It is July. We've got Jake Sanders back in the garage. We've got some Ozgener family cigars. We've got some Crowned Head cigars.
Yes.
Some good stuff here.
Yeah.
And a very unique bottle, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's a bottle, sort of, decanter.
A little decanter, Jim Beam decanter, 110-month-old. So what did we say, Nate? Like roughly?
Well, I mean, 120 would be 10 years.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 9 years, 2 months.
Yeah. From 1976, and this old car, I think it's 80 proof. So it hasn't seen the light of day since it was put into this decanter in 1976. So I wanted to bring something special since congratulations to Steve and Kristen. And
Thank you.
And just happy to be back.
Happy to have you back, and happy to be back with you guys here. I want to thank, as you dismantle this transformer of a bottle here.
I mean, you wouldn't call that die cast, would you? I mean, it's like,
No, it's plastic.
yeah,
That's not die
It looks like a model, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that you put together. Yeah.
it's like a
like one of those 112 models.
HO. Like what's the
Hobby. You're thinking the word hobby.
No, I was thinking of the
HOB,
trains, like
oh.
HO, like the lines, the different sizes of lines,
Got it. Yeah.
and model trains.
It's a gorgeous vehicle. I want to thank you guys. Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. Also Venmo contributions at Bourbon and BS. You guys help make this thing go. So we appreciate the continued support. I know we've been a little distant this year with oh God. I just want to see if there's anything like floating around.
Yeah, it's clear. We're good. It looks good, right? Looks
Sure.
like whiskey.
It smells like whiskey. Was it? It's not even a cork. It was just a screw top.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Why are you always?
No, hey, you don't
just
have to-
enjoy it. That's
No,
like-
you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about it drying out.
It looks gorgeous.
You don't have to bring out a Durand.
It looks gorgeous.
Well, but thank you guys. Patreon.com.
Smells freaking.
Also want to
great.
thank Tinder Box at Easton. They do carry here in Columbus, Ohio, carries Ozgener family cigars as well as Crowned Heads cigars.
Yes.
Jake is our territory manager. Is that the official title?
Regional sales manager. Yeah.
He's the Crowned Heads rep.
Yeah.
And Ozgener rep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what your business card says.
It says regional manager.
Regional.
Yeah.
Nice.
To the regional manager.
Assistant to the regional.
Yeah.
But thank you. Tinder Box at Easton does have Crowned Heads Ozgener family cigars, does have the Karatoba in stock in 3 sizes, I believe.
Yep.
This is the 6 by 50.
6.5 by 50.
6.5 by 50. Call it a Toro.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you know the story behind this? I'm going to get into that, but I mean, do you know the name story?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is cool.
Altadis USA, as you can see behind us, we got some of their brands, including the brand new light up halo over Nate's head.
That's great.
I feel like you leaned over to be centered on that.
Oh,
just
I
then.
absolutely
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. You look ridiculous. But no, the Monte Cristo LED sign, thanks to David Welch, who got that done for us. So I'm sure Kristen's going to love the light up sign in the garage now. It's just more shit showing up at the house. But yeah, so thank you, Altadis USA, all the people there for the continued support. Normally we have a second cigar of the night, and it's going to be an Altadis, but we've got some Crowned Heads goodies here from Jake Sanders. So appreciate that. BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. The gold's made by Placencia. Silver's made by Espinosa. You can see the La Bamba sign behind me, which I love, for Espinosa cigars. And got some good stuff from them, some limited stuff as well. Espinosa cigars with the Warheads, the Chef Special, and all that good stuff. But at Tinder Box at Easton. So check us out there and enjoy the show. If you guys have any comments, questions, put them in the comment feed on Facebook. That's where we do it live. We may have to make the switch over to YouTube since Facebook is now deleting the videos after about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 30 days. I think it's quicker than that, but yeah, definitely check us out on both. And then if you
I keep noticing, like in my memories, all my
no longer
old
available.
posts, the old podcast posts are gone.
They're gone. So buyjack.com/bourbon and BS for any of the shirts. I've got the 2020 shirt, as we call it, when the world hands you some BS, light it up. Woo. And then Nate's got the podcast, pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. And then Jake's got a nice festive 4th of America or 4th of July.
4th of America.
4th of America.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink
Independence Day.
yet. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very nice. Very
Thanks.
nice. But buyjack.com/bourbonbs for any apparel here. So check that out. Thank you, Lou, for the congrats to both Kristen and I. And like I said, we are live. So if you guys are tuning in live, make sure you jump on the feed and get after it with us. All right, Jake, let's talk about this. First, just touch on the car Transformer bottle.
Yeah, so it is a
Has anyone taken a sip yet?
no, not yet. You're so afraid for this whiskey, and there's like absolutely no lead in it.
Well, so what's the
It's
inside of it?
porcelain. I mean, it's not.
With lead paint, maybe?
Yeah, or if it was like in a metal casing,
Okay.
but it's not.
It's painted.
It's porcelain.
Okay.
It's white. It's makes it dissolve better.
Something's dying tonight.
I'm pretty sure it's porcelain. Yeah, I mean it's
Should be fine. Well, I mean, you got a
creation
barrel
of
master.
James Beam Distilling Co.
Yeah.
Genuine Regal China 1976. Regal China Corporation liquor bottle. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're good. Smells great.
just guys sitting around a garage with a fucking dusty bottle car. And you're like, you just like read it like that's like the official disclaimer. Like, yeah, you're fine.
I mean,
We should, and the should be fines that are floating around the garage right now. Not it's perfectly safe.
I
It's,
did
we should
drink-
be fine.
I did drink most of the whole bottle of the first one that I opened. So I have, this is the second one that I've opened. I have 3.
Oh God! All right.
I got in a package.
Let's take a
My
sip.
third one's like mint condition though. That came with a box and everything. That was pretty cool.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks.
Thanks for bringing it.
But 1976, Jim Beam, 110 month
Good year.
old, 80 proof. It's got a beautiful color on it, actually.
which means it would have been distilled in 67.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, next year it'd be 50.
What do you think, Steven?
Steve don't like it. Steve don't like it.
The finish was
Dusty?
not sure if that
Yeah, they smell like that. It's basically like if
Not
you like
sure
pulled a
if that
shirt
was
like out of your
sealed.
closet that you haven't like worn in a while. That's what they smell like.
Isn't there a country
You guys
song?
want
a little
some?
finish of it too.
Isn't there a country song about dust on a bottle?
Yeah.
Not in a bottle.
No, it is in a bottle.
That's not how the song goes.
Does it say on?
Yeah, dust on the bottle because it's been sitting there.
In a bottle.
Nope, it's not. Shouldn't be in the stuff.
It's your other left.
And
Because you
that's,
know what dust is
that's Ryan's left
Oh,
arm, there,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
and other things.
That's great.
That's
But it's sealed. It's been sealed.
ish. Did
Or-
it crack?
No.
Did it?
You guys do you guys like want to drink it or not?
I just did it. I think
Ryan's
I'm
got
doing
it turned the wrong
Turn it
way.
the other way. Your other left.
He doesn't want to.
See, it's just you're gonna
See, no
drop.
one can see this.
He's gonna drop the fucking thing.
Shit.
It's all right. You can take him.
He's so scared. The fact that you guys are so scared of this is hilarious. It's clear. It's not even murky in the least bit. It's not oxidized or anything.
It's got an interesting aftertaste. Have you tried it yet?
That's yeah.
That's
no,
the-
that's great.
Tastes like burning.
It's the paint.
That's perfect.
It's good.
It tastes like my grandma's house.
So you're saying there's a chance.
What do you mean?
The finish. It's like musty.
Oh my gosh.
It's like her cellar.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. It's fucking
That's what it's
been
supposed to be.
sitting in the decanter for 50 years.
No, it tastes like it too.
Oh,
It
great.
tastes like my
All right. Well,
grandma's.
I tried.
No, it's all right. All fun aside. It is very
That's what I thought. See, here's the
finish is
whiskey guy.
interesting. The finish is interesting though. I feel like it's like a must.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's 80 proof. I mean, it's not like it's
They can't hear you, Ryan.
for the color that this has. It's pretty fantastic. I mean, this is pretty dark
It is.
because the one that I had, I think it was. Ryan's trying to snort it.
No, yeah, you can do like
Told you. Grandma's
Be the
house.
first.
yeah.
I like the red fruit. I get like
Very.
See?
Plums.
I like
Old,
it.
old plums.
It's definitely musty.
Did your grandma's house ever have that crawl space?
It
Smells
had
like
like a
smells like
stellar.
Smells
Crawl
like a
space.
crawl space. Great.
So, like,
I don't think this is.
Well, they can't buy it.
No,
Well,
It's not like
I
it's
know,
free.
but it's like
Hey guys, don't go to the store and get this bottle from 1976. This is more just people are gonna be like, okay, this cigar, like, what's going on here?
They had a house that had a crawl space. I remember crawling in that crawl space. I don't know if it's gonna say a cat.
Ryan's going into the
Say
crawl
cat?
spaces.
yeah.
Now you're adding a cat.
He's gonna need a mic over there.
Yeah.
No, that's why I didn't plug it in.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's good though. I think it's cool.
I think
Something-
this has yeah, I know what you're talking. I
The
can
finish.
taste it.
I gotta light my cigar, so you guys talk about it.
Jake did a very light pour in mine. So
My bad.
I'm telling. I mean, all joking aside, it does have a very unique, to me, like a musty aftertaste, like or the finish. Excuse me. So up front, it does have, I think, good flavor. I do like it, and
It
then,
lingers there though.
but yeah,
It's there.
and then it like the finish is
Have you had any Dusties before?
not like this. Not like this. No, I've had some that friends have had that like it literally has like dust on it, you know, because it's been, I don't know, 10, 20 years maybe. I don't know. But not a, what is that, 50 years?
Yeah.
Not 50 years.
Before they sold to,
Buffalo.
yeah. And this has the same characteristics. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just old. It's a little oxidized.
I mean, the best
Character.
Dusties that I've ever had as far as like old bourbon goes was, I think I had like a 60s Ezra Brooks that was absolutely fantastic. So, but you know, back then that wasn't Ezra Brooks still Stitzel?
Still under, yeah. Still under.
Yeah, so that's why. I mean,
Back to the old
Definitely
days
has.
of distilling, was it common to have most of the product be below 100 proof?
yeah,
So asked if it was common to be under 100 proof. They didn't really do a whole lot of barrel proof stuff,
They didn't do
No.
a whole lot of
right? I mean,
No.
like, and
that's where the term 86 comes from. Like when you 86 something, because like they had a bunch of whiskey back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, so on and so forth, and all that whiskey, nobody wanted it because they wanted vodka, martinis,
Yeah.
gin, clear spirits,
Yep.
so on and so forth. So they would take all this whiskey that was like aged 12, 15 years old, and they would drop it down to 86 proof, and that's where that term came from. So like when somebody does something bad, you 80, or like you're stopping something, you 86'd it.
Yeah.
So that's where that term comes from.
They used to strip the color away from it too to make it look more like
Clear.
a vodka.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
lighter stuff.
Yeah.
Which
well, and that's when the Japanese companies were snatching them up too, right?
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I just
They all needed money.
got Alicia's grandmother passed away last year, and they are like finally cleaning out her house, and they found it's a intact tack strip. It's just Southern Comfort, but it's 100 proof Southern Comfort, and it's super light colored. I mean, it looks like 10-year-old Scotch. I mean, it's super light
Interesting.
colored. So it's funny, and there's no like oxidation in the. It's very clear.
Do you think it's still at 100 proof? Or do you think
Yeah. I mean,
It was sealed.
I cracked it, and I haven't tried it, but maybe I can do that next time when I bring it. We can say how much that sucks.
I didn't say it sucks. I love my grandma's house.
No, it does. It gives me really good memory.
Yeah.
But it does make me think of that cross space. I don't know if it was like the
Were you locked in it?
No. Like it was like a ton.
They can't hear you.
It was.
We should have put a mic over there. This
Yeah,
makes no
Ryan,
sense.
Ryan was yeah.
It was literally when I said cross space.
Hey, look,
Into the.
they still can't hear you.
The whole
It's not-
episode's
it's a
gonna be
podcast.
us
It's a
like,
podcast.
talking.
I understand that, but we're talking to them. Do you want to take the mic and tell us your story? Kinda.
No, sit your ass.
Kinda.
No.
All right.
Doesn't want me to talk.
Let's talk about the cigar.
That's why we're.
It goes great with this whiskey though.
Kind of does. Kinda
That's
does.
great.
Kind of does.
Well, and you're smoking something different. You're smoking a Mil Diaz, but yeah. So we're
Got one
smoking.
more on
So
table.
we brought the Oz Family Cigars Karatoba, which just landed. What, a couple weeks, maybe,
Yep.
if that.
Yep.
We're smoking
Along with the Broadway, which is another-
along with the Broadway. So for our listeners that don't know, there's Crowned Heads and then there's Oz Family Cigars. We're under the same roof. We're based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Crowned Heads was formulated in Nashville in 2011. Sorry. And then Oz Family Cigars started because our owner and CEO, co-owner CEO Tim Ozgener, his father created CAO cigars back in the day, and he wanted to leave kind of a family legacy brand with the Crowned Heads umbrella. So there's Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars, but this is his brand new one, Karatoba, that we released at PCA. We did a bunch of pre-orders and gave out samples and stuff, and I think you guys actually got to try it when we came back from PCA. I brought back a bunch of stuff driving back from New Orleans this year. But I think this is the best size in the 4 sizes that Karatoba comes in. This is a 6.5 by 50
box press,
soft box press, beautiful Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, Nicaraguan binder filler. And it comes from Noxa, which is North America Cigar SA in Esteli, Nicaragua. So, and also the Broadway comes from Noxa as well, same factory.
That's kind of your powerhouse right now.
I think everything that they're doing, not just for us, but for all brands right now, I think they're one of the better factories. Everything that's coming out of there is perfect. Our Coronetta Habano came out of there last year, still coming out. Our Broadway is coming out of there. We did our Azul e Oro, which was blue and gold, a few years back as well. There was a great limited edition release. So our Le Patissier was from there as well. So, I mean, they're just doing a great job. I think what they specialize in is just, I mean, their construction is absolutely fantastic.
Who makes the Mil Diaz Maduro? Is that
so Mil Diaz? Yeah. Mil Diaz and Mil Diaz Maduro come from Tacanixa, which is also in Esteli, Nicaragua, which is a Radio Pichardo's factory. So
what I kind of looked it up, but Karatoba, the name Karatoba.
Yeah. So Karatoba is kind of remember you had Aramas.
Yes.
And you have a bunch of, crazy names, being that Tim, his family is Armenian and Turkish. Mm-hmm. So there's, his first one was called Bosphorus, which stood for the Bosphorus Strait in Istanbul, Turkey. His mother's Turkish, so that's why he wanted to pay homage to his mother. And then Aramas is for Mount Ararat, which is in Armenia, but the locals call it Masis. So Aramas is kind of a blend of those two words. Mm-hmm. And then Fursat is Turkish for opportunity, and that's the Connecticut that he has. And that one is basically for the teal band on it is for the Statue of Liberty, for the tarnished copper, which is where his parents met. So that's kind of just a real quick rundown on the 4 different, the 3 first editions of core lines of Oz Family Cigars. And then now you have Karatoba, which is the 4th kind of core line to come out of Oz Family Cigars.
More subdued on the branding here.
Yeah, a little bit
clearer.
more.
I like the clearness of it.
And this is that new packaging, though, the new logo and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
This is the new packaging. So we wanted to create more of a uniform, kind of more cohesive branding. I think for Crowned Heads and now Oz Family Cigars, we've kind of struggled with more of a cohesive brand and more of brand recognition when you have a big wall of Crowned Heads or Oz Family Cigars. So now what you're going to see is, what the viewers, if you're watching the Facebook video right now, you'll see that our boxes are all going to be 21 count boxes. So they're going to be 3 rows of 7. And for us, we came up with that number because that's the most ergonomical. That way our retailers don't have to turn the boxes sideways. Obviously for some retailers, including the Tinder Box at Easton, they have bins. So you don't really worry about the boxes. It doesn't really matter for you guys, but for the folks that do put boxes up on their shelves, it's more ergonomical, like Nate at Carfagna's. So,
yep. Yeah. I love the new boxes.
Yeah.
Instead of 2x10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the La Imperiosa box, we rebranded as well. And that's going to be that same kind of styling, which if you remember, that was a 24 count. So it was 2 rows of 12, which was a very, very wide box.
Yeah.
Mil Diaz and Mil Diaz Maduro were basic 20 count boxes, 2 rows of 10. But this, the 3 rows of 7 just kind of tighten up the box. And then we also have on the Broadway and all the new rebranding besides the Karatoba, they're all going to be slide tops, but the Karatoba is going to be on hinges.
Okay.
So I think it's still very good. But besides that, the Karatoba, like I said, Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, beautiful, dark, oily Sumatra, more of a darker Sumatra, I think, than what you normally see out there. And then you have a Nicaraguan binder filler. But the name Karatoba, like I said, is kind of a play on words. Kara in Turkish meaning black. I don't think Tim wanted to make like another black label. You know, there's a bunch of white labels, black labels out there. And so he wanted to put his spin on it. And then Toba, I believe, is the volcanic lake, which the most volcanic lake with the soil. And that's where, you know, kind of paying tribute to that Sumatra wrapper leaf there. So
There's more to that story.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And it's interesting. This is coming from halfwheel.com.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's John's write up too, by the way. So John's the master at that.
So Kara is the Turkish word for black or dark, like you said, while
Yeah.
Toba refers to Indonesia's Lake Toba, the largest volcanic lake in the world.
Yeah.
Some 74,000 years ago. Have you read this?
Yes.
The Toba,
But it's better in your voice.
The Toba
Yeah,
super
yeah.
volcano exploded outside of Sumatra, Indonesia. There is a disputed theory that the explosion wiped out all but some 10,000 humans on Earth. While that might be disproven, it's one of the most important events in Earth's history, the largest known eruption in at least 1 million years.
You were just waiting for the whole thing there.
This is named after
a super volcano that
A
destroyed
super
life on the
volcano.
planet.
almost the entire human race. Like, I feel like when you light this up, it's like you hear just millions of screams.
And we're drinking lead. It all works.
74,000 years ago, it didn't have the 328 million in the
I
U.S.
thought you said a million years.
It was 74,000
But
years
within
ago.
a million years, it was
According
erased.
to this, I don't know.
So it definitely killed the
After
dinosaurs.
10,000-ish,
Definitely killed the dinosaurs.
Oh, the dinosaurs were dead before that.
That's true. What year was that?
I think that was like the 1800s.
It was in 1900. All right.
Or they're getting
Jurassic
core
World.
samples out of Antarctica.
I just think that is a hell of a story. And I know it's like a historical thing or whatever in a region, but the way that this write-up goes,
Yeah.
you said John did that?
John and Tim worked on it, but yeah, John sent it to Half Wheel.
To name it after basically a global killer.
You'll never forget it.
Yeah. It's Armageddon.
But it's a great cigar.
Yeah. Next year, watch out for Crown Heads. They're going to debut the COVID.
Yeah. That'd be a great one.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, we can get Fauci to
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Right on the box.
fucking.
We don't need to.
We can get Fauci on a poster. Put his fucking face right on the box.
He's not working, so
Should be in the hole, but whatever.
all right. All right, Sumatra wrapper.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Don't
Well,
worry.
and if you remember, before we went live, remember what I told you when this cigar first came out,
Facebook's gonna ban
what
this
it-
one.
made me think of?
What's that?
Yes. Yeah, you said it was old CAO.
It made me think of when I first saw the cigar come in, put on the shelf.
The branding of it?
Well, just the look of the cigar
Okay.
itself.
I got you.
It made me think of the CAO anniversary 96 Extreme.
Was that Sumatra?
Exactly.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Ecuadorian Sumatra and Nicaraguan.
Wow. That was before my time. What year was that?
It came out in 96
Wow.
for their 30th anniversary.
That was right at their prime too, man.
Oh yeah, back in the 90s. Holy shit.
yeah. CAO.
Everything CAO was coming out with
Owned
was
the 90s
Oh yeah, everything they were coming out with was 90 or higher
and the early
ratings.
2000s. too.
Yep. That was one of like 3 or 4 brands that when I got into smoking cigars in the early 2000s, like CAO was one of those brands that I was all in on.
Whoops.
Jake, what do you think of this cigar?
I love this cigar. I know when Steve asks like what what we should do for tonight. And either, Tinder Box at Easton has both Broadway and Karatoba. But I know Nate and
So do I.
and John Huber from Crowned Heads loves Broadway, and I know Steve likes Broadway. Broadway is a much stronger cigar in my opinion. Broadway being kind of a play on words and playing off of us being based out of Nashville with the famous street of Broadway in Nashville. And then you have the Connecticut broadleaf Maduro wrapper, Nicaraguan binder. But with that one, you have 2 leaves of Lajero in the fillers, so it's got a lot of strength to it. It's a lot of flavor. It's a great cigar.
It's very robust.
Very robust. I think for my palate, though, Karatoba is the winner. When I first smoked this cigar at PCA this year, I was just blown away. I think it tastes different, completely different from anything else that Tim has made. And I think rightfully so, being the fact that it is made at Noxa. Everything that Tim has made thus far was made at EPC, Ernesto Perez Carrillo's factory in the Dominican Republic. Not to say those cigars are bad or anything like that. It's just this has a different flavor, and I really, really enjoy it. I think this dark Sumatra just adds so much kind of rich and smooth in the same sense, which is kind of weird, but I get a lot of baking spices off of this, a lot of woodiness, but I also get kind of that like kind of toffee, like frappe or like whatever kind of sugary like coffee drink you can think of. I really enjoy off this cigar, so I can't stop smoking it. And this is my favorite size too, and the 4 sizes. It's 5 by 52. There's a 5.5 by 55, 6.5 by 50, and then there's also a 6 by 60. Which the 6 by 60 is only $13, which in the 4 lines that Tim has, it's the least expensive of the 4.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. It is, not dramatically cheaper, but
a couple bucks.
It's a significantly lower priced, which was interesting when you guys released this.
Yeah,
because that was like when Tim Ozgener was like at Tinder Box, for example. I'm sure we weren't the only ones, but it was kind of like when he came out with this stuff. And I think maybe possibly coming out of Ernesto Perez Carrillo's factory, there is a little bit more cost, but it was almost like you're coming out with your own brand after all these years. And, a lot of today's cigar smokers, I don't think know who Tim Ozgener or the name Ozgener is, the O in CAO.
Right.
And so when he came out with it and he's out here swinging above average price, but not too expensive.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're coming in, mid-teens with the other lines, and then this one's kind of low teens. Yep. It's. I think it was a smart move.
I think it works
in a little lower.
I think it works a lot for us right now. I think that 12 to 13 to 14 is kind of the sweet spot, where it used to be kind of 9 to 10 to 11.
Yeah.
If you're above 15, you're kind of itching your way, up to more of that, more premium price point. And when you do that, you kind of not exile yourself, but you do put yourself in a bubble. But I think as far as, I don't know exactly the exact leaf blend and the filler leaves in this cigar, but based on what I know with the wrapper, binder, and filler, it's a lot less, what do I want to say? It's a lot less, I don't want to say like creative, but there's more different types of tobacco in the other 3.
Correct. Yeah.
So Bosphorus, there's tons of different tobacco in that cigar. It has 2 binders. Tim wanted to come out with cigars that were very, very creative, something different that the industry hadn't seen before. And that's what they did back in CAO for years as well. Sure. Like they always messed around with blends and messed around with packaging. And so I think this is the more simplistic blend of the 4, which I think aids a little bit more of a, nicer, flavor profile,
more familiar.
Yeah. More seamless, more soft, but still has a nice richness, really easy to smoke, more approachable.
I've noticed some of these box press cigars that have been coming out, newer releases from not just the Noxa factory, some AJ stuff too. You really you have an easier draw, and I think you need to I've found some cigars that have a little firmer draw. You're pulling on a little harder on the draw. You do that on this one, it's going to bite you. It's going to get hot.
Yeah.
This is one that's going to be more. I don't want to say you smoke it like a pipe, but I mean you really kind of
smoke it slow.
Yeah, you don't need. There's not a whole lot of effort. It's not airy, but
No.
it is a
It's just
quite
effortless.
easy. Effortless is a good word. So you almost have to slow down the draw and kind of go a little easier on this cigar. There was another new release that we haven't featured on here, but Tyler, who comes on the show with Espinosa, the Knuckle Sandwich Puro, same experience. Like if you're halfway through that cigar and you're pulling, it's going to give you tongue bite.
I had the same experience with their Independence Day, though. Too.
Yeah.
So that was a box press.
Yeah, and I think it's from my understanding, there are the two real techniques with the box press cigars. You either add a leaf, or you take one away. A lot of times, I think you're taking it away because it's going to ease up the draw on it. And sometimes though, if you pull too hard, it's the Padron style, the anniversary 26 series from Padron.
And it's not
Same shit
underfilled
there.
because you can you can feel it.
Not claiming that it's underfilled by any means. It's just that's the way it smokes.
Yeah.
And I think it is maybe a technique that Padron uses with their box press that obviously works for them.
Probably. I mean, that's what you said about Thames Versat.
Versat draws the same way.
Was very close to. You know,
I always had to do a hole punch on that one because
slow it down.
Because straight cut or V cut, it just burned too quick. It drew too easily.
Yeah. A couple questions for Jake real quick here. Bobby Hirschman. Jake, do you know who the rep in PA is?
He's in Philly.
He's in Philly. So that would be Miguel Montañez. He is our broker. Amazing guy. He's based out of Jersey, close to New York.
Okay.
So,
put that a little bigger on there for you.
Yeah. So I wish I was your rep. I just handle the western part of PA. And then Miguel Montañez, not Miguel Shadell. Miguel Shadell is our VP of sales. But
another quick Crowned Heads question here from Joseph Galvez III. How are the Las Calaveras 2025s coming along?
Yeah. So we just released which is why our second cigar is going to be a Las Calaveras. I don't have any of our new ones, unfortunately. Nobody does. But I have been privy to smoke one or two of them. I can tell you, brother, that they are fantastic. They're going to be a Mexican San Andreas Claro. Kind of a lighter shade Mexican San Andreas. They're coming along great. They should be here at the end of July for us, for retailers.
That the San Andreas Claro is starting to really surface as an available wrapper leaf, which is interesting.
Pretty sure that's what the new one from McAuliffe is too. Yeah, I think their new the green. I think it's a Mexican.
Can't talk about it, according to Jeremy.
Well, we're talking about it right now.
Unofficially.
Can't confirm nor deny. And thank you, Stephen Cook, there for the congrats on the wedding there. So appreciate that very, very much.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know about this cigar, if anything? I mean, it's
out.
Ton of flavor.
It's a ton of flavor. I really like the aroma on it. This is what, $12.95.
Yeah. 12, 13 in that range.
Yeah, for you guys, depending on each state's tobacco tax.
Yeah.
They're out now. We're still waiting on some more shipments. This was one of those cigars coming from a smaller factory that we do apologize for some of the retailers out there, but we received half shipments of it. That way we got most of it out to most of our retailers.
Broadway was similar, correct?
Broadway was similar.
Yeah.
So we're kind of dealing with those growing pains. The same way goes for our Mil Diaz and Mil Diaz Maduro in our new packaging. And then also our La Imperiosa with the new packaging will come out in late July, probably with Las Calaveras because it's coming from the My Father factory. And then on the docket, we're going to have the rebranding in Jericho Hill and then also Fort Kicks and Tennessee Waltz. But stay tuned because there's a special thing happening with Tennessee Waltz, which is one of our best sellers as well.
Can't talk about that.
We're super excited about. So
can't talk about that yet.
I don't think John wants me to say anything about it.
Can't talk about that.
I appreciate you getting me my cigars for the new release in that first batch. I appreciate that, Jake.
Yeah, well, you were one of the earlier ones. I
Guys.
tried to explain.
Well, and you and I have known each other for a few years, so
yeah, I try to help out the people that support me and then have support me. But at the end of the day, it comes a lot from the people that bought and the priority list that comes
Yeah.
from PCA and the people that, you put your order in right after PCA.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and also when I saw, because right now at Carfagno's, I don't carry the La Imperiosa, but
right,
when I saw you were coming out with a new packaging
It
and
helps.
I was like, okay,
now
the-
you can do it.
like these boxes, instead of being 10 or 12 wide, bring it down to 7. I can throw another box on the shelf, hopefully. So
Yeah.
So
Well,
that'll
I
be coming.
appreciate it. I mean, that's why we did it. We talked about it. I know that we just talked about it before the podcast, but I just 4 days ago passed 3 years with Crowned
Yeah, nice.
Heads.
Jesus.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So pretty wild ride so far. And
Yeah.
but
for sure.
I know that we've talked about it in our sales meetings ever since I started with Crowned Heads, and Crowned Heads have been around for about 14 years now. So I think that brand recognition,
Even that's crazy.
yeah. I think once that brand recognition comes and all these get out on the shelf, I think I think it'll be the new era and the new resurgence of Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars that we're very, very excited about.
I don't know how long it was ago that you were on, and it was something that we had talked about. I think after the Pichardo,
The split.
Well, yeah, and the Luciano split and everything like that. Well,
Yeah.
it was like you guys were finally hitting the stride that it was like, all right, we're not doing just the limited edition runs and
Yep.
this and that. And then that got there was obstacles there working with this factory that you were working with a lot, with the Pichardo factory. And with the Luciano,
I think the
there was
perception. I think the perception was there, but there was never any issues.
it
coming
seemed
out
as
of-
though you were going heavy with the factory, starting to bring out some new stuff like the Juarez, like the Mil
No
Diaz,
Diaz,
and then it was
blood medicine, CHC, Siri.
But
Yeah.
I guess the nice thing with you guys now with Tim Ozgener having the regular releases, now he's at 4 regular production
Plus his limited.
but then now you guys are starting to hit some more regular stuff.
Yeah, and I mean
Which is
we
nice.
can.
It's just nice to see.
Yeah, and we can talk about it a little more on the second part of the podcast because I'm really excited to talk about that as well, based off of Facebook conversations last night. It's something that I've been meaning to talk about, and what I'm getting to is the fact of what our thoughts are of where the industry is heading and how service goes from a manufacturer's standpoint, and then also the retailer standpoint, and how the relationships between the manufacturers and the retailers kind of coincide, and how we have to work better for the consumer, So
Yeah, that I am looking forward to chatting with that. We're going to try to roll through this since we're not really reviewing a bottle you guys can get your hands on. It's a 4/5 a quart. The whole brand, like the whole label on this thing is kind of interesting. It says 4/5
well, the fact that
a
it's
quart.
in the porcelain.
Well, this on where your hand is, you got that sticker too.
Yep.
110 months old.
Yep.
4/5 quart, and then 80 proof.
Yep.
Which is
James
Beam,
which is basically what you get in your Jim Beam white label, any day of the week, but
it's not a 5th.
it's not a 5th.
Yeah. It's very cool.
I mean, do you guys enjoy the cigar?
So this is 3rd, maybe 4th Karatoba I have had. I've enjoyed it. Like I said, there's a lot of flavor. You hit the flavors, I think, really well when you were describing it.
Thanks.
It's just flavorful. It's nice to have, in contrast to another release from the sister company from the Broadway,
Right.
where that is, I don't want to say that's a punch you in the back of the throat, but it's
broadleaf, 2 leaves of Lajero.
Yeah.
It's hearty. It's
Yeah.
hefty.
So when someone comes to
Still
the table with
well-balanced.
it is, but this is something where
This is smooth.
medium bodied, but it's very full flavored. There's again with the easy draw, a lot of smoke, as you can see.
I love the retro hail. I mean, that's what I really, really love about this cigar. That kind of like toffee or like dark cocoa notes come out in that retro hail a little bit, and then the aroma is fantastic. I love what I've really enjoyed since I started retro hailing, since we met.
Yeah.
Is that because I couldn't retro hail for the first 3 years that I was smoking cigars, and then I finally got it. And what I love is retro hailing and then like almost breathing in back through my nose and like seeing the different, you get your flavor profile and your palate get to experience so much more flavor and more notes. And then you get the aroma coming off the cigar as well. And it's like this whole experience. So there's a lot more to this than just, bringing the smoke in and blowing it out. And then Steve sneezing because of the retro head. So, and you'd be doing more so if it was the Broadway.
Well, it's a softer spice on the retro. On the nose, it's a softer spice. It's not that just big black pepper bomb, and it's not one that
it's like brown sugar almost.
It's not going to
There's a
necessarily.
woodiness to it.
Yeah,
too.
it's not going to make you start tearing up unless you've never retrohaled before in your life.
Right. Right.
I wasn't crying.
But I love this size. This
With 6.5 by 50.
the 6.5 by 50 size.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, John and Miguel are turning me into a smaller ring gauge type of guy, which I never was. I started smoking like 52s, 54s, 56s.
You were pushing 60s for a while there. Yeah.
I was, I smoked the Tatuaje Grand Cajon. I still love that cigar.
Grand Cajon is a great cigar.
But this, like now, like when somebody hands me a thinner ring gauge, because the Robusto in this, you got to remember, is a 52.
Mhm.
So this is the thinnest ring gauge, and it's also the longest cigar in the line.
The whole reason I brought this size into the Humidor at Carfanas was because it was a 50.
Right.
Right. I mean, yeah, because I carry this, but then like the Mil Diaz, I carry the double Robusto.
The double Robusto.
The
And you could even
6.5 by 50.
6.5 by 50.
Yep,
But
same
then there's
exact-
the Corona Gorda.
Yeah.
And the Mil Diaz, which I grabbed a box. I hadn't smoked the
46, right?
It's a 46, and
Yeah.
I hadn't smoked it. I don't think maybe ever in that size, and I love Mil Diaz. And then I brought a box back from PCA this year when we drove down and back up, and I lit that thing up on our last day, like leaving New Orleans, and I'm like, where have I been?
Yeah.
Like, there's
It's
like,
interesting.
and that's the Sublime, right?
You guys call it the Sublime.
It's whatever.
You're the only people who call it that.
yeah,
I know.
no, 6 by 54.
6 by 54. It's very deceiving. I was going to make a comment on that. Just a side note with
'Cause all the
new
bands. Yeah.
on this. That does not seem like a 6 by 54 at first glance. It just doesn't.
It almost looks like a Robusto.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And I know
Bizarre.
people are going to say with the new bands, because like Broadway, Mil Diaz Maduro, La Imperiosa, everything coming out is going to have the 3 bands. It's going to have our new Hero logo. It's going to say Crowned Heads on it. It's going to have the specific logo for that brand on the side of the band. And then it says Crowned Heads, and it literally says in Arial font or whatever you like want to call it, just the name of the cigar.
Mhm.
hey, that's not terrible though.
So I mean, there's no way
Well-
that you can distinct from another cigar, which was the idea, I think, from John's branding style,
Yeah,
was that
the colors on
Well, like-
it though are great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
And also I think one of the issues the original packaging for the Mil Diaz had, you had that white label, and then it still has it on the side of the band here. You just had that red M.
well, and it looked different from everything else.
It did. And honestly,
Everything did.
when I opened at my humidor, when I opened my most recent box of Mil Diaz, there was no foot band,
I know,
but
Yeah.
the ones I had before had
foot band,
the Crown Heads foot band on it.
which there's a story behind that too, if
Uh,
you want to hear it. But
We can do that later.
yeah,
But no,
you're
I,
right.
I like so I mean, 2 things I like about this packaging. One, you've got the name of it right there on the label, whereas the
Yep.
previous one did not.
Yep.
But they still kept, they still
That's
made
all
it.
of them.
They still
That's all
made,
of
yeah,
them.
but they still made an ode to the original band by having that red
Right.
M on
Yeah.
the side.
Yeah.
And that's how those circles on the side are going to be filled with the old logos for all of them.
Correct.
So like the La Imperiosa is going to have
Have
like
the
the crown
crown.
on there.
Yep.
It is nice because we do get fans of the Mil Diaz coming back in, not knowing what it is, and they said it's got an M on it. You know what I mean? So it was for a shot that uses bins. Obviously, there's going to be some confusion because it is a recognizable. It's white with an M on it. I don't know what it's called, but they
People
so-
just say the red M,
yeah. So
Yeah.
you can find it a little easier now. There's a little more brand recognition. So
and the Maduro is black, so that's the distinction.
yeah.
That's the distinction. So
Yeah.
and the box is black. So it's way different. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it enough, to be honest.
I would agree completely.
It's exciting.
Let's rate it. Let's do this.
All right.
Dave actually has a couple of questions. Dave Merrick's on here. I don't know if you were looking at any of the
I'm not,
comments.
sorry.
He was very curious about the Jericho Hill.
The
Willie Lee.
rebranding.
No. Willie Lee, is that the 654?
That's the 654 when it's coming.
Yeah.
It'll probably come with the My Father shipment in late July, but that's why
Okay.
it was. I did a favor for Brian and brought that box in. So I hope Dave did. Dave get any of those?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Gone.
Okay. But they should be coming here in a few weeks.
Well, I like Dave because when Tinder Box runs out, he comes to
goes to
Carpanias.
Carpanias, and you got him, or you had him, right?
He's smoking the smaller size right now. And I mean, he's still
smoking
grabbing
that
those. He
Robusto,
grabbed the Bulldozer from you guys, the Juarez limited size and blend. The Bulldozer there. So,
And
but yeah.
Juarez, yeah.
And he asked to do. Oh, that's a good question. Before we do the rating here on part one, then we'll go to the ratings here. Nope. There it is. Got a couple comments just come firing in there.
Yeah.
Do cigar companies have art departments, or do they contract that out? I think that's going to vary on the size of the company.
Oh,
but what do
absolutely.
you guys have?
For us, it's John. So our president handles our marketing, which that was his job at CAO too. So rightfully so.
Does he do like the graphic design as well, or is that
So he works with people on the graphic design, but he's always the one
in-house, or are they contracted?
They're contracted, but he's the one. Actually, our bands are being done by a company out of Holland now, which a lot of people use cigar rings or so on and so forth out of the Dominican Republic. And so, but I can't remember the name. It's Holland, so it's something different. But I think they did the Karatoba bands. They did all the bands on all the new branding,
which is good.
I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and they came by our booth and was there, and they, sat down and talked to all of us, which I loved.
Yeah.
They asked our opinion too. And these people make branding for, I think, like Coca-Cola and stuff like that. I mean, these people are, the real deal. So I think we're very, very excited to work with them.
Beautiful upgrade on a lot of these things here
Thank
for
you.
you. All right, so let's rate it. Whiskey, cigar, and pairing. Obviously, focusing on the Karatoba from Ozgener Family Cigars because that is something available for the listeners out there
to purchase.
Yeah,
not a 76 Jim Beam,
not a 50-year-old car decanter.
Yeah.
I don't think these are available. The cars right now.
I mean, you can look on and
find Jim.
Actually, if you really want to know, this one specifically, which is a white 4-seat, I don't know what it is. It's an old car. Looks like from the 40s or something.
Off-white at this point.
Yeah, but you can find
get some Windex. It'll polish right out.
You can find these on Facebook Marketplace.
My boss just brought in a couple of those.
Cool. Yeah.
My boss just brought in a couple of those.
About $100. They normally run about $100. Like, I got a crazy deal. I drove to London, Ohio, and I got 3. 2 of them were messed up, so those were going to be the ones that I was going to open. They were all sealed, and then there was a third one that came in a box. It was mint. It was a Model A car, and all 3 of them I think were $125. So normally these decanters run anywhere from 80 to 100 if they're full. If you have sets like Jim Beam made, like if you go to the Jim Beam distillery in Claremont, Kentucky, they have a whole room dedicated to all these different decanters and shapes and different stuff that they did. I mean, there's trains. You can get a whole train that fits up on your wall, that the locomotive and 8 cars, it's a whole set.
Wow.
And they're all bottles. They're all sealed bottles. The coal car is a sealed bottle. The log car is a sealed bottle. The caboose is.
It's like that new one that Calumet just released.
Yeah,
with
and they're trying to bring that back a little bit too. But I think this stuff's so cool. It's
any
part
watershed ones here coming up.
Back when whiskey just became less popular.
Yeah, these were less popular. Whiskey was less popular, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and so this was kind of a marketing technique that got people excited about this.
Collect it, like it's a collector.
Yeah, it's definitely a collector's. I mean, this is obviously, this is not glued down, and there's like, you can almost see like the 3M like tape on the bottom.
It was
like
padding.
To keep the porcelain, decanter that actually held the whiskey in there. But you know, whatever, we're gonna drink it, and that's what it's made for.
I love
so.
it. I love it.
I mean, it's good whiskey.
It's neat. It
It's
is.
neat. It's a conversation piece. It's something I would want to keep in my house. I think it's great.
What rating would you give the whiskey? Out of 10 being the best.
Well,
Nate?
I agree with you, Steve. There's something about that
He's-
finish.
He's bamboozled.
Mhm.
Every time.
Like
that
the
finish.
nose is good. The initial palate flavor is good, but
Yeah.
that finish is just, I mean, it's definitely funky. So I was thinking about that. I'm going to give it a 6.7 because that's the year it was distilled.
You're a hater.
6.7 because it's the
Year with
the
the
110 months prior.
Which
Roughly
made it in
67.
1976.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Roughly 67.
can we make a point here that like I don't have the regular Jim Beam, you know, just
Like white label. Yeah. Oh, did you want to do a side by side to see what the
no,
difference was?
I just think that if this is any like basically like the, you know, it's the Jim Beam. Like I mean, was it a special?
No, it's
No,
a
they-
regular mash bill.
That's
that-
my point.
It's a-
Yeah,
it's the
That's
same,
my point. So I mean,
yeah.
like I think
The yeast has probably changed from
That
50
could
years
be.
ago.
I think my experience with that.
I mean,
But
and
I got a weird one for you because I know when I say this, Ryan's going to lose his shit. But drinking this whiskey, Ryan is going to know exactly what I'm talking about.
which Ryan's
Clementine.
Sorry, Ryan Newman.
Newman,
No,
Clementine.
no, it's that kind of dustiness, but a little bit of that sweetness there. It's like that Werther's that's been in your granddad's pocket for way too long.
Yeah. Well, way too long. Yeah, now you can finally
50
say it.
years.
He's been saying this for how long? Like probably 6 years at this point.
Ryan's
Like
been saying that shit.
the Werther's, God. I remember the first time we said that on here.
Pocket, like the one like that I probably haven't worn in like a long time. That's probably put away. That my wife is still trying to put up. There could be some caramel.
The funniest part is the first time that we mentioned that comment with the Werther's original, we were drinking Wathans.
Yeah, we were.
So
I-
Oh, no, Ryan said that years
This
ago.
does not
in the
taste like a Werther's original unless it's been in your
Yeah.
grandma's basement.
Ryan said that years ago
In a
when he was
nice
still working at the
bedroom.
Tinder Box.
with the plastic.
Yeah, there's definitely some like water kind of coming through the foundation in the basement.
Yeah, the water.
A lot of mold.
Yeah,
Mildew.
A lot of mildew.
Mildew.
and the only way that the Werthers are sealed are just those little like twists on the end. Not really sealed. It's more just
Yes, totally. The walls are yellow.
yeah. You definitely smoked in that house. Yeah,
The walls are
yeah,
yellow.
yeah. You smoked some
The dead cat in the
Yeah.
corner.
dead cat now. So,
Just makes it better. It's all
Jake.
flavor.
rapid fire. What's your whiskey rating there?
I'm biased because I appreciate it for it being so old. I
Absolutely.
think this stuff's cool, and I honestly think the nostalgia gives it a little more than what the actual whiskey is. If we had a bottle of Jim Beam white label sitting on
Yeah.
the table, you could definitely say like you could drink this and take something right off the shelf and drink that and say
I think a more accurate comparison would be Knob Creek 9-year
I just don't think Jim
because that's
Beam-
got the age and it's the same
I
mash
don't
bill.
think
as
Yeah.
the
Jim
Jim
White
Beam.
label
Yeah.
is like a sipper either. Typically,
it's
fine. It's fine. It's just like
but Jim
It's that 60-year-old.
But Jim Beam
doing a
Black,
shot.
Jim Beam Black is 7 years. It
Yeah.
used to be 8. I think if you put Jim Beam Black up against this, and Jim Beam Black isn't 80 proof either. So I mean, you're dealing with proof points. I think if this was at 100 proof, I think we'd all be speaking a different tune. But I'm really impressed with how it's not a cork or anything. It was just a cap with the old tack strip, which I absolutely love.
Mhm.
I think when we first poured it, I mean, my initial response was just the color. It's completely clear. It's got like just a classic caramel.
And for 80 proof, it's got legs.
It's got a lot of oil in it, and I just really enjoy it. I would give this a solid 7.
okay.
I think it's just something cool to drink and talk with friends, and that's why I brought it here. So that's
Story packaging, 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
The
yeah, for
actual
sure.
Juice, 6. I mean, like it's
yeah. I
like,
think we're all saying the same thing.
yeah. I mean, it's very cool.
It's got
to-
those
to-
light
to
fruit
have.
notes, but it has like the oakiness of just classic Jim Beam. And like, let's face it, like if you're dealing with like a Jim Beam mash build, like you could taste it blind as much as we drink, and you could tell what a Jim Beam product is.
I
you know?
wish for this being a collector's, even if you like not really worth anything based on what you're saying, right? You know, there's no value really. to it.
$100,
Yeah. So it's not like this, you know,
probably
huge
was
collector.
$20.
I kind of do wish there was some sort of subtle branding on the car itself, so that when this is sitting up on your shelf, you know, say in your,
Well, to
You're-
my fault, the sticker is kind of fucked up, but
it's
I
fine.
mean,
I'm just, it'd be kind of cool if there was like a logo somewhere,
that said Jim Beam.
you know, like on the grill or on the you know, somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, but that just so that it's up on there, and then, you know, doesn't just look like a toy car, you know,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
your shelf, right? So it's like, you know, something that
Well, I know Pat Stiles, Matt's brother. I know he has a couple of these,
Okay.
and he really enjoys this one because this is the oldest out of the 3 that I bought. I think the other ones are like 100 months or
Okay.
101 months. Now I don't know what difference that makes, but the other car that I got, that it was almost like a wagon, like an old wagon.
okay,
This one's much better than that one was.
okay.
That one was very light. It was 80 proof as well, but there was no
That's
depth to
interesting,
it.
man.
This has a lot more depth to it. It's just got that oakiness, that classic oakiness to it. So
How about the Karatoba? What are we thinking on the Karatoba here, Nate? Your rating on that one?
So this is the third one of these that I've had. The first time I smoked it, I was kind of meh on it.
Mhm.
I smoked this and the Broadway back to back. But
This first,
this first.
okay.
But the last 2 times I've had it, including this one, I've actually enjoyed this a little bit more.
Mhm.
was the other one a Robusto?
Nope, same size.
Same size.
Like I said before we went on air, that blend, just looking at it and looking at the cigar itself, made me think of that 96 CAO.
Okay.
This one doesn't necessarily have the leatheriness that I remember from that one having, because I smoked my last one of those, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, because I still had some. But no, I think definitely like slow down on this cigar makes it better. I don't get the bite this time around that I had that first time.
Because you're pulling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's it's good smoke. I was actually surprised when it came in at the price it
Yeah.
did. I was expecting this to be higher.
16,
Yeah. Well,
15, 16.
yeah.
Just like the other ones, right? Yeah.
So I do like, I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I give it maybe just an inch over that, but like about an 8.
Yeah.
8 plus. I think this is I've already kind of said my thoughts on the cigar, but I think it's very enjoyable. You're at the average price point, so I think that with that being said, it's a nice offering again from Ozgener Family Cigars. I think you guys have, and it's in the kind of press releases. I mean, Tim is a more upfront, active person with Crowned Heads at this point.
Yeah.
With the ownership at stake and everything else. So
Being
I
our
think,
CEO.
and being CEO, so there might be. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But with this cigar, I think this is a great kind of transition offering from you guys from his first 3 to something more of a everyday smoker for someone at the average price point.
Yeah.
Tons of flavor. You're right smack dab, I think, on a medium, like middle ground on strength.
A little bit. Yeah.
So it's definitely too much if you only smoke like mild blends, mild Dominican blends, stuff like that. I don't think you're going to really go for this. But if you're kind of, you enjoy some mild, you enjoy some fuller bodied, and obviously you smoke a lot of like that medium ground as far as the strength.
Yeah.
This is one that you definitely want to give a try to see if it's going to kind of hit your palate in the right way. I just think it's a really pleasant smoke. I think it's a very pleasant flavor, and it's very enjoyable. But again, that construction, you just, as Nate just said, just slow down on a little bit. This is not because there are plenty of cigars out there that you really have to kind of not chief on, but like pull on that draw. And this is easy. This is really, the whole experience is just kind of, you sit back and relax with it, you're going to enjoy it.
It's a slow smoker for sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate your guys' kind words on it. Like I said, when I smoked it at PCA this year, it pretty much wowed me. right off the rip, because I hadn't got to smoke it until the PCA, which I thought was cool for us reps that
Yeah.
work for the company.
No, it's nice.
And normally, we can get, John kind of sends out some care packages of our new stuff to, those privy. But I think when we all smoked it together, we both said, we were both impressed by the Karatoba and the Broadway. But I think for the folks, like you said, that don't smoke a lot of full all the time.
Yeah. I
think for Karatoba being that kind of soft, subtle, kind of warmth, kind of medium to full body, medium to full strength, it's a great buffer for somebody that wants just a little more flavor. That's a punch above medium. So, and I just can't say enough about the construction of these cigars.
Mhm.
I've smoked probably 100 of them in the last probably 3 or 4 months. And I got to say, I have not had one have a draw issue, crack, nothing. And I've smoked pretty much every size.
Yeah.
And I'm really blown away. I think construction, branding, flavor profile, I think this is a solid 9 for me.
Oh, wow. Okay, nice.
And I know I'm biased because I work for the company, but I really, really do. I would tell you if I didn't like it, and I really enjoy this cigar. I'm super impressed with it. So
Nice.
Great job, Tim. Great job, John, to our branding factory, and then also to Noxa. It's just a banger of a cigar. So if you're listening, please go out and get you a Karatoba from Oz Family Cigars, Crowned Heads, and ask your retailers about this because you're going to want to smoke this.
100%. All right, guys, thank you very much. That'll round out part 1 here, and we will roll into part 2, right?
Yep. Nice.
Where the topic is, as you called it, be of service.
Oh, did you like that?
Liked it enough to make it the topic. So, guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey
buddy.
Wednesday. Bye, Ryan Newman.
Bye, Ryan.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Cheers,
for sharing.
guys.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you. Thanks.
Stay tuned for
Joint.
part 2.
Like that.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, absolutely. You guys want to roll through?
Yeah, if you
Mhm.
want.
I'm ready.
Can I have a paper towel?
Yeah.
Or a couple.
Nope, just one. I'm all out.
Fuck.
No, this person's 3.
That's right.
Well,
Can you spare a square?
I mean, he brought cigars and whiskey.
You only get 3.
Ryan, is that your chair?
Mhm.
You stole my chair.
He definitely stole your chair.
Yeah, he definitely stole my chair. Son of a bitch.
Well, now there's only one Ryan left in the garage.
He's parked down there in
That's right.
BFE.
Pretty sure he stole that chair.
Yeah. Still smoking this cigar.
Great cigar. We're going to smoke the Las Calaveras next.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about that if you want.
Welcome back to the Bourbon BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 338, part 2, Beyond the BS. And we have Jake Sanders in the garage, cheersing on the 50-year-old, don't break it, decanter bottle of Jim Beam, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Listen into part 1 to talk about that. And we're still smoking the Ozgener family cigars Karatoba,
Yes.
which is named after a
Super volcano that almost destroyed the world.
Yeah.
luckily it didn't kill everyone.
That we know of.
Well, I didn't know any of them.
That's what I mean.
74,000 years ago.
Didn't kill all the ground people.
If it did, none of us would be.
That was way before Jesus.
That's way before Jesus.
Going back over here. To the
Definitely
Halo.
BC. That's
So,
definitely BC,
BC.
for those following at home.
Got it.
I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank our sponsors. Tinder Box at Easton, Columbus, Ohio, carries the Karatoba, as well as some of the other Ozgener family cigars, as well as other Crowned Head cigars.
Yeah.
You see it on the
Screen
table
there.
here.
Yep.
You got the new Broadway box there. You got the Karatoba box. We've got the Las Calaveras from previous years. So
Yes.
that was the sampler set. I assume you guys will do those again.
Yes, we are doing a sampler set.
For usually the 3 main sizes and a Bellicoso.
This year is a Petite Lancero.
Very cool. So that'll be the limited one in the sampler only.
Yes, sir.
And then you also have what's at the end there? The new.
That is the new Mil Diaz Habano, the original Mil Diaz.
So there's Ode to the Last Box, different shape. You said you got to touch on that. You have 3 rows of 7. To
all
make
new
21.
rebranding from Oz Family Cigars and Crowned Heads. That is not limited edition.
Correct.
Will all be 3 rows of 7, 21 count boxes, made specially for our retailers to be more ergonomical, and then also give us more of a facelift and give us more of a cohesive collective brand recognition.
And you're selling an extra cigar.
Yep.
Love that. And then I also want to thank Altadis USA. You see the brands behind us there, Monte Cristo, Romeo Julieta, H. Upman, Aging Room, among others. Thank you to David Welch and Maria, Josh Bentley, and Paul Waller.
For
all
the new
great
sign,
people
look at Nate's head.
over Nate's head. The little halo.
Halo.
Fantastic. Really cool LED sign.
No, it's
by the
gorgeous.
way.
It's got a little clicky. It's got a little.
Clicky. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's got a nice clicky on
Got
there.
a clicker.
Yeah,
And,
you can turn it off.
But it is nice. It looks better in person, honestly. Like, it looks cool on the screen, but I mean,
Yeah.
it is very sharp.
You did a great job. We got to
So-
do that. Crowned Head's got to
That would be cool.
do it.
That would be very cool. We'd
Especially with the CH, man, or the
be
Oz
happy
logo.
to have one of those hanging up right behind us.
We got to
as
make
well.
2 of them.
Well, yeah.
We have Oz and Crowned Heads.
But I want to thank also BS Cigar Company. Gold and silver are available. You can contact Tinder Box at Easton to grab those.
Silver's back.
Silver is back in the 6x54 and the 6.5x58.
6x54 is fantastic.
And gold comes in a 5x52, 6x54, and a 7x58.
Bingo.
Gold's made by Placencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa Cigars, coming out of their La Zona factory. And I want to thank all the patreon.com/bourbonbs people out there. Appreciate the continued support, as well as the one-time contributions from Venmo at Bourbon and BS. And then obviously the swag by jack.com/bourbon and BS for a shirt I've got on, Nate's got on, and there's some other good swag on there as well, including some ladies DV t-shirts.
Nice.
You've got some 3/4 sleeves and some hoodies that are not good for July.
When
And they're canvas, right?
Well-
They're Bella canvas hoodies.
Anymore? Those are independent.
Okay.
I believe
The old ones were Bella canvas.
a couple
Yes.
weeks ago when we were in the DR, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a guy setting up for one of the wedding parties,
Yeah.
and he was wearing a hoodie.
It's a different heat
They're
down
used
there.
to it down there. Yeah.
I mean, it was
Um,
only 82 degrees.
Topic here tonight: be of service. I want to kind of. This was from someone that is now the sales manager, Wayne Clark from PDR Cigars. He had posted. He's been posting some cool stuff out there on his personal page now that he is a sales manager instead of regional manager, if you will, territory manager.
Yeah.
Before he was with Placencia before that, but
Yep.
just kind of asking some questions. And one was about this.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Was about like what is going to make you buy from these different companies and why.
Yeah.
The topic went to the events, why people need to have like the principals of a company or the owners of the company out to get anyone to get involved, right? It's not enough just to have a rep to come out. We're finding, and I thought it was a good enough conversation. I chimed in on Facebook. Jake, you saw that as well.
Yeah.
And just some of the responses from people were interesting. But basically, it was just like to get people out to events, to get people engaged with any real type of just going out. You know, I've noticed there's been a big difference.
Yeah.
We just had the 4th of July. Obviously, we had fireworks shows, and from people I've heard, different suburbs or different, like even the main one in Columbus, Ohio, Red, White, Boom. It was just the attendance seemed to be down. People aren't still getting out as much as I think they used to in a lot of ways. And I think with the conversation with the cigar world, and I think it does translate to other industries, other aspects of life, but it was just, I think I say it a lot on the show, people buy from people they like.
Yeah.
And,
Rule number one.
And people buy from people, like there's an identity to it. So if you are of a brand, even like Ryan, being in the garage here from Watershed, been on the show several times. I mean, there are brands that just sell because of the brands, right? It's
Right.
just that's they do well. in the cigar industry, in the spirit industry, stories and family and all of that stuff, people really do, I think, give people a reason to buy the products over something else.
Yeah.
And sometimes they may even enjoy other products more, but they want to support their experiences. I went to a distillery. I went, I was at an event. I met the owner. I met the sales manager. I met this person from a brand, and really, was treated well. Really liked the person.
Yeah. So
they want to continue to support that. The conversation on that thread kind of also went further, where, and Jake, to kind of really kick it off here with the cigar side of it, and just your job as a on the road salesperson. You have a territory. And, Bobby Hirschman was asking, who's the rep in the Philly area.
Right.
If you don't know, it's going to be harder to buy, right?
Yeah.
He was, looks like a broker rep down south. And I looked him up because he commented on my comment about the fact that if there are some sales reps that come into shops, or they're traveling and trying to represent a brand, whatever it might be. But in the cigar world, it's all they're doing is really stopping in, especially even if you carry their stuff. It's not even a new account, but you carry the stuff, and they're in there for maybe 10 minutes tops, sometimes even less. They're not smoking the cigar. Never seen them smoke a cigar.
Right.
And they hand out a few samples, maybe to the buyer or the owner, the person working.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, well, if they don't even ask for a sale. They just kind of like, all right, well, let me know if you need anything. And they tell you the special's coming up, and you're like, well, that could have been an email. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And the response from this guy that's down south, I don't know the way he wrote it on his Facebook. So I don't know if it was kind of at well, if you know everything, what do you think? He's like, I've got 300 plus accounts and 5-6 states, 5-6 brands, whatever. How long do you think is appropriate to be in an account?
Right.
I haven't responded yet. I wanted to talk to you guys about it. I mean, again, I don't really care. I don't know the guy. But I also, wanted to comment back and say, look, I'm not your sales manager, but right off the rip, if you've got that big of a territory, that many brands, that many accounts / possible accounts, you tell me. Because, and Wayne had commented also that there are companies out there that just want touches. You know what I mean? They want to make sure that you want to get in this many accounts a day, all of that stuff.
Correct.
A lot of logistics that go into that. I mean, if you break down that, what's your cycle there? Doing the math, even if you did 40 hours a week and you try to get in 300 accounts in 8 weeks. So
it's not going to happen.
You're hitting, well,
I can tell you
before
that right now.
the travel, that gives you over an hour. Just break down, right? As far as that goes. So it's just a matter of certain weeks. I think you can hit certain number of accounts. Like if you're in a city like Columbus, for example, you've got so many shops.
Oh, yeah.
How many accounts do you have in Columbus area, Jake?
Probably 6, 7.
6, 7.
Yeah.
So if you get into town and you put in a longer day and you get around town in a city like Columbus, is just an example. It's not obviously the norm, but say you have 7 accounts and you want to spend 30, 45 minutes in each of them.
Right.
That's a long day.
That's a whole day.
That's a whole day. But that's one day.
That's one
and
day.
You're hitting a city.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to really kind of spend more time at certain ones,
it's probably 9-10 hours with travel.
9-10 hours, or
if you start your
overnight,
day in Columbus.
My point was to the thread was, if there's no identity, then why are people buying it, unless you really have an identity with the buyer or the people that work in the store that then have to do the job of getting to the end consumer.
Yeah.
But if people don't know the brand, the principal, or whatever, and they don't know the rep, then it's just a matter of it's all on the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel as though like this guy was looking at it, and I wanted to tell him, it's like, I don't know, how are your sales? You look at it, you're like, you got 300 accounts. So we have people come into the shop, and I'm like, if I was, and I've been a sales manager in a different industry.
Yeah, still same thing though.
So it's like, if I'm looking at your numbers and I'm saying, okay, this shop, all right, let's look at Columbus. You got 10 accounts, including some possible ones. So this, we're looking at it like, so, Tinder Box at Easton, just as an example, it's like, all right, say last year you guys, we were at $25,000 for the year. We're at 10 halfway through the year.
Yeah.
8 halfway through the year.
Right.
How's it going with that shop?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a one-on-one type thing.
Yeah.
But if you're your own boss and a broker rep, it's like, the guy asked me, I'm like, I don't know, you tell me, how are your sales?
Right.
Because there is no right answer on how to increase them, but it's like, if
Not
you're
with
just
a
popping
broker.
in and you're just hitting the touches, and your sales manager's coming down on you, it's like, you're not raising anything here. It's like, well, you're not developing real relationships here. You might as well be on the phone. You might as well be sending out emails to give deals and all that shit. But if none of their customers know who you are,
right.
There's, and I know, Jake, you used to work in this area at the Tinder Box, and you've been doing this show with us, from the very beginning. But it's like, there are other shops that know Jake from Crowned Heads.
Right.
They may not even know John Huber, but they know Jake from Crowned Heads.
Correct.
And I don't think it necessarily means that you have to be in these shops like late at night for hours or anything like that. It's just,
it helps.
It does help, but it's, you sit down, you smoke a cigar, and if people come in, you introduce yourself. Like, it's a matter of effort.
To
it's
everyone.
not just about the fucking touches.
Yeah.
It's we've had reps, and I think this is a salesperson mentality. If all you're doing is 5-minute meeting with the owner when there's no one else in the shop, sometimes that's just the way things work time-wise.
Yeah.
But I've also seen people coming in and some reps will be like, hey, how you doing? Like, what are you enjoying? Not even first off coming like, oh, you should try Crowned Heads.
Right.
It's, what do you like? All that stuff. And then you start talking with it. And then by the end of the conversation, naturally it turns into, is like, oh, I'm actually from Crowned Heads. The customer then asks, oh, what are your cigars? Do you have them here?
And that's
It's
the
just
approach.
talking to people.
That's
And
the approach
I don't
that I like.
understand how some of the people in sales, especially, they don't get it. It's not necessarily, there is not a right amount of time. There is the right amount of effort. You're allowed to talk to other people that aren't writing you a fucking check.
And integrity.
It makes no fucking sense to me that is a thing.
Yeah.
You're in sales and you don't like talking to people.
Yeah.
Find a different career.
I mean, I see a lot of that on the wine side where I work at. We get some reps that they're in there and they could be there for a while. Sometimes we'll have reps and they're backed up waiting to be able to talk to either one of my directors, because the director is going to be the one who's making the order. They're going to be the ones actually ordering product, whether it's restock or new items.
Yeah.
They may bring in stuff to taste and they're trying to taste the director. The reps that have the most success from what I've seen in this industry is, they come in and they do their initial job, looking at the shelves, seeing what's there, seeing what might be needed. But then if there's 3 other sales reps there and they have to wait their turn, I see some sales reps that they just stand there and they're just waiting for their turn in line.
They get on their phone or their
and then
iPad
and then I
doing,
see
like,
other
busy
sales
work.
reps that are actively engaging the other staff members that are there.
Mhm.
Or if they sit there and if they see other staff members that don't have anything to do, they may sit there and say, hey, I'm going to be trying, your director on some wines. Do you want to try them as well while we're waiting? Because I got 2 other sales reps in front of me. It's going to take some time for them to do their orders. You want to try these as well? And the reps that actually sit there and talk with the staff, give the staff samples, and this is both cigars and wine from all my years in that industry, is those other staff members. When you leave as a sales rep, and then someone comes in and they're looking for recommendations, if you've done your due diligence and you've treated the staff, that staff member is more likely to recommend your products.
Right.
If, my boss has a bunch of other stuff to do than just ordering wine or selling, like, they're so involved in all the other aspects of the business, they don't necessarily have all the customer interactions that the rest of the staff does. So who's the one selling the most product? It's the staff.
Yeah.
So if you engage with the staff and you give the staff those stories, or you tell them the tech sheet on products, then that staff member is going to relay that to customers that come in, and they're going to push your product. But you still have to do the job of getting in there and spending time with them, if possible.
I don't understand when they took away in this industry, when they took away you couldn't hand out samples to customers, it like just froze people.
But I don't think it exists much anymore.
No, I'm saying like that's what I mean. Like it froze, like the fact that
It
like
froze the
like,
manufacturers
it
and
used to
the
be real
reps.
easy when a rep comes in. You're like, here's free shit with my brand on.
Yeah,
it, you know?
yeah.
Like here, guy. You mind if I hand out cigars to everyone in the shop?
I
Like,
mean, you know me, I still do it.
Well, I know you do.
And I actually stopped kind of because, well, not as much, right? But you know, there's only so much you can give out. You know, you don't want to give out the house, and you got to, as a rep, you got to think of the retailer too. You know, every cigar that you hand out is money that's not being put in that retailer's pocket. You know?
I had that conversation with the shop in St. Louis. I was hanging out there for an hour, and there were 6 guys sitting around smoking, and it was my last stop for the day. And finally, one of the guys like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a cigar rep." "Oh, what are you passing out?"
Yeah, I know.
And I said, "Nothing."
Yeah. Well,
and
I mean, that's always the question.
But I explained it to him. I was like, "No, if I give all 6 of you a cigar, you're going to sit here for the next hour and a half. You're going to smoke that cigar, but you're not putting any more money into the till." So I tell you what, they've got 30 boxes of my product. You buy 2, I'll kick 1 in.
That's a good response.
That's a really good response.
Like you put money, in, and I'll kick 1 your way.
I think what's great about my job and what you did too, Nate, because you did it as well. But I think with being a regional manager and sales rep for, you know, premium cigars, is that there's the best part and also the worst part is like there's you gotta think on the fly. Every place that you walk into is different. That's a new meeting ground. That's a new there's 15 different personalities every account. And you have to remember those, and you have to remember the names, and you have to do all this. And it's every salesman has to do this. And if they don't, then they know that they're doing something wrong. But I think for me, like speaking on both of what you guys are saying, is that, you know, when you walk into a store, you gauge the audience, you gauge your presence. I think one thing that bugs the shit out of me most is from the manufacturer and being a rep standpoint, is that, you know, 80% of retailers are just grouchy. You know, like that's
interesting.
You walk in and, you know, people treat you like shit because they think you're just a salesman and you're just there.
You're just trying to take their money.
Yeah. And I don't really appreciate that from my standpoint, because I spend a lot of time thinking about this on especially my windshield time. And I spend a lot of time and effort, and I have a lot of passion and integrity with what I do. And so it really irks me when I go into a retailer and they instantly have an attitude when I just want to sit down and introduce, especially if it's someone that I'm trying to introduce our lines to.
Sure.
And so for me, it's gauging my audience, and there's a bunch of variables that we're talking about here. It's not just people going into cigar shops. It's people meeting multiple personalities on a given day. And you have to gauge, I have to gauge when I walk into a store, whether, hey, do I act like, if it's a place that I know, hey, is it okay if I pass out our new cigar to folks if I have that brand? I want to know, especially if it's later in the day where there's a big group of people, and, you know, because that I can try to sell everything that I want to a retailer and the owner of the retail store. But what's really going to, you know, shake their heads and what's really going to get them excited is if I hand out a cigar to their consumers, and the consumers say, "Man, I really like this. You know, we're going to buy this. You know, how can I get this?" And that's like in a perfect world, that would happen in every visit, right? Especially in Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars is in a different boat. You know, like this podcast is sponsored by Altadis, which is arguably one of the largest conglomerates in the entire world of tobacco. And so it's a lot different from, say, Dave's perspective, where, you know, I don't want to say what he's doing with his job, but for me, you know, I have to sell, we have to sell Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars. You know, when I walk in, it's it's not necessarily with Brian from Tinder Box, but it's like setting up a meeting or sitting down and trying to, I have such a big territory that we have to set up these meetings and we have to sit down and I have to go through this sales spiel. It's not just walking in and taking a quota of what is in the humidor and in the trays or bins or on the shelves and saying, well, you need this, 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 and this. You want to do that today, or do you want to do it next week or next month? It's, hey, we're coming out with this new line. I want to get you guys locked in for this. It doesn't have to be shipped tomorrow. We can ship it next month.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to put Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars. I want to put our best foot forward. And if I'm trying to be the best salesman in my job, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to introduce myself to every person that I see. Hey, my name is Jake Sanders with Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars. Have you heard of us? We're in this part of the humidor. Do you guys care if we walk in the humidor and I show you our stuff? And then it's sitting down and having a cigar with everybody, And like you said, Steve, as far as the time frame goes, you can spend 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes even 2 hours. And I think it's at the rep's discretion. Like if I walk into a place that's completely new, it's a dormant account, I don't even have a contact for that place, I'm going to walk in cold turkey at 11 or noon or 1 on a Tuesday, because most owners are going to be there on Tuesdays. They're probably going to take Sunday and Monday off. I mean, I would say the majority. And I'm going to say like, hey, my name's Jake. I know I'm stopping by unannounced. I wanted to, maybe if you have a few moments, like sit down and have a cigar with you. Have you had a cigar today? It's bringing the level down from just selling cigars to more of a humanistic standpoint and perspective. And I think that for us, especially, we have to do that with Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars, because it's very easy. And I do it every day because it's very easy to walk into a store and it's, why are you here? Or the retail, or the retailer is just a complete asshole. And that's fine. You can be a dick. You can be, it's your business. You are.
Same question. Why are they doing it then? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me either, but I still want to take their money.
Yeah.
So it's, but I also want to give them a great product, which I think we have, and I'm going to work for them. So like, that's my sales spiel, is that I'm going to work for my accounts. Now you're not going to see me, like, obviously I live like an hour away from Columbus, but like for instance, like I had a guy that I was on vacation last week, and Tim Ozgener reached out to me, and we have a system on our websites that there's an inquiry board where you can put your name and number and email and say a little, message and, inquire about the cigars and who the rep would be, or so on and so forth. And so Tim sent me a message and said, hey, there's this so-and-so, here's their email address. I reached out to him and, said, hey, I wanted to give you our application. I wanted to also give our updated price list and some of the deals that we're doing. And also here's something special that we would do for you if we would put in an order here in the next week or so. I said, however, I do live in Northeast Ohio, and that was the first thing he said. And it's funny to me how out of touch most people are about, and I know this is a broad kind of absolution, but it's funny to me how most retailers are completely oblivious to where the reps are and where they live and how big some of these companies' territories are. Crowned Heads doesn't have 20 people across the United States. We have 6.
Yeah.
And so if this guy's talking to me from upstate Michigan and telling me, hey, like drop by next week. Well,
I got plans.
Respectfully, like I'm actually on vacation this week. The way my schedule works is, my rotation, I'm not going to be up there. And if I'm being honest with you, probably September. But once I get back from vacation, I'd love to get on a phone call with you and talk about our cigars. And I'd love to earn your business. And I think but to my standpoint, I don't get any response from that. So it's like, to me, I understand the constant battle and there's got to be a relationship between the manufacturer, the rep, and the retailer, and then obviously ultimately the consumer. But these there's a battle and an argument that needs to be said between the smaller companies and the retailers and the bigger companies and the retailers. And I think that this doesn't have anything to do with what we were talking about on Facebook last night, but I think if there was just more of a respect characteristic there when it came to reps, I think a lot more reps would act differently. But then there's also the other perspective where there are reps that have larger companies that are roughly just order takers, and they come in, they do their event, and if the event is from 5 to 8, they're leaving at 7:59.
Yeah.
And they didn't smoke a cigar. They sat behind the table. They didn't go out to the patio. They didn't talk to anybody. They sold their cigars and fucking left. And I don't think, even if I worked for a large company, I would not do that
because you have a passion for it and you love engaging with people.
Yeah. And I think that the more that you do that, it puts a bad rep in the retailer's head. But if it's a larger company, obviously they need their product. But I think the waters just have been muddied. Obviously, I've only been doing this for 3 years, right? Well, but I was in retail before.
You're not wrong, because I had the exact same thing happen my second week on the job when I was a sales rep. I had an account owner call me, and he's like, "Hey, here you're my new rep. Like, how long you been with the company?" I said, "This is my second week."
I love that you just mentioned that, though. Hold on a second, though.
No, let Nate go.
Well, I just wanted to point out, and I'll let you go. That is the number. Why is that the number one question? Can someone in the retailer business, maybe Steve can?
Hi.
Well, I know, but you're my friend. But you're going to still shoot me straight. But
I was going to say,
can somebody explain to me why, if you're meeting a rep for the first time, why is that the number one question? How long have you been with that company? What the fuck does it matter? Like, are you trying to figure out like how long I've been with Crowned Heads so that I haven't reached out to you? Like, what's the game that we're playing here? You know what I mean?
This is the same thing when you get to just like a normal, you go over to your wife's friend's barbecue.
How long you been together?
No.
Or something.
No.
Sorry, I'll let you talk.
It doesn't take very long typically. I don't know as much anymore.
Sorry.
I
hijacked.
It's the same kind of thing. It's real easy. So what do you do? What do you do? That question. Why does that matter? It's just, it makes people, I think, there might be some people that are qualifying. Like, I know more than you, but it's very easy. Like when you're hanging out with like Alicia, right? And you meet someone for the first time or whatever, and you're just the small talk.
Yeah.
It very quickly, it's so easy. It's an easy icebreaker. It's conversation. It's like, so Jake, what do you do for a living?
Well, I see where you're going with this.
I'm telling you, it's the same thing.
I don't think it is. I think it's a loaded question because.
Well, maybe that's on you then, because if I'm asking, because I do ask, not typically, it is not qualifying. It's just, like when you brought up like David Welch, right? Or for you come into a shop and I'm like, so, how long you been with Crowned Heads? If you take it that way, maybe sometimes it's pointed in that sense for whatever reason. It doesn't mean anything. If it's like, I've been here 2 weeks, it's like, oh, you don't know what you're doing.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying.
I was going to say, so what'd you do before this? And then you would respond, well, I worked for Burn by Rock Patel in Indianapolis. Oh, okay, cool. Like, and then you're like, and before that I did this. Can be a way of breaking that down. You're not just making the sale.
I think it is, but I think
then you could respond, how long have you worked here? How long have you had the shop?
Well, I do respond that way.
Yeah, but
but I don't think that it's that. I think what it is that, especially with a new account, that's always the first question. That if it's an older shop, and well, I'm with Crowned Heads, and I've been with Crowned Heads for 3 years now.
Yeah.
The next question is always, well, how come you didn't stop by? And it's like, well,
how do you respond usually?
I respond to that and saying, well, I never get any response from phone calls, texts, or emails. So in my opinion, you don't seem interested in the brand. So
is that what you say to them, or what do you say to them?
That's exactly what I say.
Okay.
So I think there's better ways to phrase that.
There's better ways to phrase it, but sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, because especially up in Michigan, because all those guys up in Michigan just consistently batter every rep. And that's just the way they are. That's their culture. And that's fine. And you know that when you're going up there, you can talk to any rep out there, and whether they want to say it out loud, like what I'm doing right now, or say it behind closed doors, everybody knows that I'm saying the truth. But the point is that I find it very, I find it uncanny, off-putting that for some reason there's this muddied water sense where it's all on the reps. And I get that it's literally our job to walk into these places and get sales. Like, we are salesmen. This is our job. However, you don't have to treat every person that walks in your door like a dick because your business is failing.
Certainly.
And
not.
so
certainly not.
It's gotta be, there's gotta be a give and take there, and an even keel where, you know, I'm a guy walking in. Like, when I was at Burn, I always gave the respect to anybody, even if I wasn't bringing in the product, because we had certain guidelines that we ran by in that humidor. Even if I wasn't bringing in the product and they walked in and they called me and said, "Hey, Jake, I'm going to be there in an hour or a couple hours, or I'll be there tomorrow." Sure, I'll stop by. You want to smoke a cigar together? Would love to. Do you guys need a drink or whatever? Like, and we go upstairs and have a conversation about it and talk about it. And if we could do that, that showed me a lot managing a humidor, because if they sat there and even though that I wasn't going to bring them in and they came back again, then, you know, I probably brought them in
eventually.
And I'm not saying, but I treated them with respect. You don't have to do this song and dance where, you know, I email everybody at least once a month. And if it's not text, if it's not calls, it's an email, if not both. And if you're not responding and I haven't seen you since I started with Crowned Heads, then I don't know if you guys are open. I don't know if you're even interested in the brand. If I have 150 to 200 accounts,
you need some sort of feedback and communication.
I need some type of respect and interest in this, because there's way too many things on not just me. And I'm not sitting here like saying, "Oh, poor me." I'm just saying this is the reality from a rep standpoint that handles 7 to 9 states.
I don't
think
there's anything wrong with you being honest with them if they say, like, "Why haven't you been in yet?" And just say, "Well, you know, I did try to reach out a couple times, and so, you know, when I didn't get responses back, you're on my radar. I'd love to get in here." Yeah. You know, obviously that's what I do for the company. If you have any interest, or if not, I mean, I have to prioritize my travel. So if I've reached out, or when you reached out and I reached out back and you didn't respond or anything like that, you know, unfortunately there's only so many hours in the day for me as well, including windshield time. And, you know, I've been wanting to come in here. But again, like, if you're not responding at all, I didn't want to, like, obviously push it, but I hope, you know, coming in, I just wanted to kind of check out the spot and maybe figure out, you know, is there a fit for both of us? Or if there's not, that's fine. I mean, just
tell me. And I think that's a big thing that's going on in the industry now is the follow-up. I don't know about when you were.
That's every industry, though.
Well, I know.
People's communication is somehow we have
the most
increased the ability to
communicate, and then we don't.
Correct. People have gotten worse at communicating now that you have the ability. I mean, there are people that you literally will call them, they text you back. Not because they're busy, not because anything else. They just don't feel like talking on the phone. They don't know how to. They don't know how long the conversation is going to be. Yeah. There's some weird social anxiety that has been created now. I mean, calls. When I was a part of some different chambers of commerce in my previous career, I didn't really love doing it because it was forced conversation and it was forced small talk with everyone, especially when I was the new guy going in there and, like, it seemed like everyone knows each other already. You know what I mean? And so you go in there, you kind of have like these, you know, like kind of cold, clammy hands, you know, not really sure, you know, if I'm going to do
like speaking
well
up in front of the classroom, you know?
Yeah. So it takes a little bit of practice. But yeah, there's in this industry, a lot of industries, I think there's a lot of egos involved, especially if you own the business.
There's tons. Oh my
You're going to
God.
tell me, because there are different sales approaches. And what's really shocking to me in the cigar industry and other industries, there's no sales training. There's no training on communication. So there's no, like, you as a rep are just basically spirits. Ryan's here from Watershed in the garage. I mean, it's just kind of like, what have you done? All that stuff, and they're qualifying it. And it's like, if you've had some sales experience, you just figure that's it. But there's no,
I'm going to need some more of that for 4 roses though before you leave.
there's no like training there to be
I
able
agree.
to talk to people.
Yeah.
Because we just had a phone call. Brian took it, and it's really interesting how there's also the other approach where, may I?
Yeah, hit it.
Where
Yes,
it's really easy for a sales person to come in to basically tell you you're doing your job wrong, or you're running your business wrong.
Well, that's what I mean.
We had a rep, we had a company, and we've briefly talked about it, but
Yep.
we've had companies that have basically just, said, well, if you're going to buy directly from us, you need to order this way and all that, because we've seen growth and everything like that in the accounts that we've basically changed the way they buy from us. And you're just like,
well, but that's what I
Okay.
mean. That's what I
Well,
mean.
Hold on, let
Oh,
him.
sorry.
well, it's coming from a lot of times people that don't hit the road anymore. They're not in
Correct.
shops. They don't see the things you see. They don't listen to the things that you're saying that you run into. And they say, well, this is easy. Like a lot of businesses, a lot of decisions are made behind closed doors, around a conference table, from people that are possibly in the right position, possibly above their ceiling in a company, and they're trying to make their jobs relevant. And so they come up with these ideas
Great
that
point.
as people that are doing the groundwork for the company, as well as the people they're interacting with, and they're just like, no, why would I do it? That doesn't even make sense. And it might make sense for a percentage of that industry, the business, the retailers,
But
and
not
this,
the whole shop.
Yeah.
but it's not a one size fits all in
Yeah.
almost every business,
So I mean, that's
especially when it's a product. You're selling a product. It's like if you just came out with strong cigars and you're going in, you're like, yeah, and you're like, my customers don't all smoke strong cigars.
A luxury product.
Why
at that.
would I
Yeah.
do that?
We're dealing with a product that nobody needs.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
let's face it.
and
right?
that's similar to what I see at my main career in the wine industry. Is our shop is set up very differently than a lot of wine stores around Columbus. There's a lot of very popular brands that sell a shit ton of product all over the place that we just don't carry, because that's not our clientele. That's not what we specialize in. And, us doing things the way we do works for us. So in the wine industry, the average price on a bottle sold retail is around $15 a
Mhm.
bottle.
Mhm.
Our store's average is 26.
Okay.
So we have a different clientele than what's going into some of the big box stores. We're not case stacking some of these big brands where they sell a bottle for $7-8 a bottle.
Yeah.
That's just, if someone comes in and go, hey, you have this? Like, nope. Kroger right down the street has it. If you want that, they have it. That's who you should go to. If you want something, a little higher end, this is the shop for you. And
you guys have some badass wines in there.
yes, we did.
They're
Thank
pretty
you.
sweet.
so
Especially in that back corner.
But yeah, as a sales rep, though, you have to go into every single account. You can't. There's not a template for every single shop.
No, never.
You have to treat each shop as an individual entity and
Correct.
find out what works best for them.
Amen.
So,
Yep.
Brian at Tinder Box, he's owned it for 26 years. And there are reps, they go around, they see hundreds of shops, and those shops do things differently. And then they, if they go into the Tinder Box and they try and tell Brian, like, well, hey, this is what works for other stores. Brian's like, well, wait a minute. I've been doing this the majority of my life.
Yeah.
And it's been working for me, not just getting by, but growing the business. Like,
let me step in here, because I'm getting messages that like Jake's like, almost the way I'm reading it is like, you're almost being like too honest, but that's fine by me, because
What's being said?
Bobby Hirschman was saying that some people were saying that you were like a little bit he's saying off.
You
the
were going
rails.
off the rails.
And I'm like, I've seen you
no.
go off the rails. I don't think you are. I think you're being honest with that stuff. But I think there needs to be the conversations like this in this industry and other industries, but just in general, because
We're just having a conversation.
There-
If I'm
well,
messed up, then fine.
no,
but-
no, you're not. That's the thing. I don't think you are.
You're
but
good.
if-
I don't either.
my thing is that part of a conversation, the biggest part is the listening, in my opinion. And so with these specific examples, and you can translate it to any job that you do, it's asking questions and listening.
Mm-hmm.
I have never done what you do, Jake.
Yeah.
I've done sales, but it was in the moving industry, and it's like they're moving, so they're getting estimates.
They need
Yeah, yeah,
someone.
yeah.
But there are plenty of moving companies out there, so it's like, why would they move with you? Why would they buy yours service? You know, like, why,
Yeah.
what do you offer? And we were in the area the most expensive, so that's a fucked up situation to walk into. You're like, well, you know, a lot of times people get like 3 estimates, and you usually
I've
go
been
with, like,
there.
the middle road. You don't want to go too cheap because it's like, oh, if that's too good to be true, and you don't want to be, necessarily spend more money on a service that you feel like I may not need to spend that much, and I have a budget just like everyone else. But we did very well doing it, and a lot of the training there was, for example, and I know I'm oversimplifying it. You go into that shop where the guy's not really giving you time of day. You look around. You start asking the questions, and again, I'm oversimplifying this. You look around, it's like, so what does sell well for you here? Who are your biggest brands? And I do have just a small percentage of reps in this industry that look up and down the humidor and ask.
Yeah.
We don't even carry their stuff. They're just like, so what's been selling well for you?
And they're trying.
And I'm telling you what sells well, why it sells well, where we're at, and all that stuff. Okay, that makes sense. Do you have any? For Crowned Heads, you consider maybe still a boutique brand, even though, you guys are growing pretty big. Like, do you have any brands kind of like Crowned Heads in the shop right now that's doing well? Like, as far as like, that, it's only less than 20 years old. And no, I don't sell any of that stuff. Oh, okay. Okay. You just start figuring that stuff out. Like, have you ever had, like, what have you brought them on in the past? Just curious, like, did it not do well?
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason? Was just no one asking for it? Like, I mean, because
We've had that.
maybe does anyone know? Like, are you familiar with our line? Sort of. And you just start asking, like, not necessarily that. How long have you been in business? But it's like, what does well for you? Like, sales good. Like,
and that's never taken
just
personal.
curious.
It's the rep trying to figure out exactly in their portfolio what works for that store, because based on exactly what Nate said, each individual account is its own entity, and you have to treat it as such. And I think especially for us, I think there's a lot of variables that are underlying that we're not talking about. And one of those includes that relationship between that retailer and that rep, meaning that if we're coming in and we're discussing different sales and what's going to work in that humidor, for instance, I may, a lot of manufacturers, I'll go off on this part of it, where a lot of manufacturers think that the more facings that you have equals more sales. I'm of the opinion and I'm privy to working at Tinder Box at Easton, so I know how things work there, that say you have an account that's doing $30,000 and they have every facing that you have, say like there's 40 or 50 facings,
Sure.
right? Or do you have a $40,000 or $50,000 account that only does
10?
Like 10?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what is the bet? What is the better shop? And for me, I don't think and that's the problem that we're in right now, is that the manufacturers are trying to get the most facings, and you'll see with a lot of the bigger companies that they have the requirements and they have these facing requirements. And heck, we even did it last year with our Las Calaveras, because we had our Las Calaveras from 2024, which for our viewers, you can see me holding it up right now. It had the pink band on it. And Las Calaveras, we do it every year, and it's arguably our biggest release of the year. And last year we did our 10th anniversary to commemorate the 10 years of doing it, from 2014 to 2024. And we had a buying requirement at the beginning of it. And I think it went well, but there were issues that we realized that was with that, and we kind of dropped the requirements. So and you gotta either die by the sword or live by it. And I think that's where we're at right now as far as the retail business goes, where the manufacturers are asking for these facing requirements, especially when they're bringing in a new line.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it really pigeonholes,
Chokes them.
certain retailers, if not all of them, in some regard. And I think, like you said, Nate, I just want to drive the point home where every individual account is its own entity and you have to treat it as such. And there's a bunch of things that also go into that. But I mean, I think that's what we're really talking about is be of service. And if you're being of service as a rep standpoint, you have to treat that retailer as if they're your only retailer. That doesn't mean that the retailer gets to treat you like shit either. But
How many of your accounts or possible accounts, when you say treat like shit, how many, like, percentage wise, ballpark?
say it again. Sorry,
How
I was
many-
reading Bobby's thing.
Yeah, how many of your accounts treat you in a disrespectful manner, or potential ones in this specific industry? Because sales, the no's are you don't want to get too used to the no's.
No,
Because then
obviously
you're just
that's
like
bad.
expect you walk in, it's like it reminds me of Tommy Boy, when they keep getting no's and all that stuff, and finally, like, he says chicken wings, and he goes in there, and the guy's like, okay, like, guarantee that scene where he's like,
Yeah.
I can
And he
take
crashes
a
the
shit in a
car.
box or dump in a box, and
Yeah, it's got to be your bowl.
yeah, well, David Spade's like, chicken wings. He's like, chicken wings, and he's like, it's like, well, I can take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed. I've got spare time, but if you want a quality brake pad and all
Yeah.
this stuff, blah blah blah, and the
Yeah.
guy's like, okay, I'll buy from you, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
And they go on this streak, right? Obviously, it's a great
Yeah.
movie.
No, it's great.
Cinematic.
But it's a great sales movie if you really think about it from that standpoint. Because I think
There's a scene right before that when David Spade is like, because he's like, Tommy Boy's like, do you want to give it a shot, Mr. Know-It-All? He's like, all right, watch and learn. And the guy, like, basically does what some people.
and he went
in this
into a good
industry-
old boys
No.
place.
Yeah, and David Spade just like basically like, yeah, it makes sense. It's all there in the paperwork. Like, the company saying this is how you should buy and all that stuff. And he's
right,
like,
right.
I don't like you. You're a smug little man. All this stuff.
Right.
And then, obviously, then that's when Chris Farley goes into
Yeah.
want to jerk the wheel in a goddamn bridge compartment. You know what I mean?
But it's true.
It's
I
like-
mean, I'm glad you brought that up because it's a great point to make as far as our side of this industry where, and I really don't know what Bobby's like talking about as far as like me being off my rocker.
Don't worry about Bob.
I don't
But
think he
in
wants
my-
me to come across as someone that is callous in the industry in a show that's going to be in the industry. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, if you
but
really
I
want to see
don't-
callous, I would really offer all the people that work in retail to then become a rep and then go out there to multiple states and then see how it is.
No,
And the only reason why I'm saying that, and that's being just dead honest and being passionate about it, because and to answer your question, Steve, I would say it's not the majority. We live in a world where obviously it's easier to be negative, so I don't want to come
well,
off
it's easy
like
to
that.
talk about negative or remember
But
the negative.
I would say at least 35% of my retailers treat me like that.
Okay.
But I will say if I go in and, if I come off as crass and I bring it back to them a little bit, especially up in Michigan, they know that I'm not going to just walk out the door.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you, like I said, you have to gauge your audience.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying I do this with everybody, obviously, but in certain cities, if you walk in, you got to have an attitude. I mean, Bobby's like around the Philly
Philly,
area, so Jesus, like, I mean, you gotta have that attitude with a little bit respect. So I totally understand, but there's just a lot to be said for someone that's taking the time out of their day and going into your store and handing out cigars and trying to have a cigar with you, even if it's unannounced, and putting themselves out there. And this is coming from someone that has been on both sides of
Sure.
things. I was in retail. Steve helped bring me up. Brian helped bring me up. I managed a humidor. I managed a 6,000 square foot nightclub, cigar lounge, whatever you want to call it. I know how it is. I've been on this side of things now for 3 years. So you can't take one size fits all in this type of scenario. But I do think that if we're being of service, I need to do my best work walking into a store, being polite. And if you notice, one thing that I try to do that I learned from Miguel, our VP of sales, which Miguel's been around for over 20 years in the cigar industry, so he knows what he's doing. And arguably people can talk about how great Miguel is when it comes to sales. He is that classic salesman where he's always selling.
First rep I ever knew.
Yeah. However, one thing that Miguel does fantastically is that if he knows, and this is what I've tried to adopt, if he knows when he's walking into a store and he smells the negativity and he smells the good old boys club and he smells this sad type of environment, he brings the energy.
Yeah.
He brings the excitement. Hey guys, my name's Miguel Chodell. I'm from Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars. Is it okay, from the owner so-and-so that, we pass out cigars and hang out for a second and talk about our stuff? Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. And it's bringing the energy, because instead, otherwise it'd be like, hey, my name's Jake from Crowned Heads, Oz Family Cigars. I'm stopping by unannounced. And they're like, well, who are you? How long have you been with Crowned Heads? Oh, why haven't you been around to see us? Why haven't you been here? And that's like,
Separates the great.
yeah.
Well,
and
you
that's
miss something with the energy. It's positive.
yeah.
energy.
And you gotta put that face on. And I like to say, especially I can arguably say that we do more events than any other company. I've done over 50 events already this year. So whether it be podcasts, whether it be in-store events, whether it be cut and light, and no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And I love being here. And I love doing this stuff, and it takes time away from my family, but I know that this is what it takes to get this brand out here that I know and love. Yeah, she can come.
Yeah.
And she does sometimes. She's done a couple of
Not
events.
here, but yeah.
Yeah, she's done. Well, we'll get it done.
The new house.
And
For dinner.
not to get too much off the rails, as Bobby put, but I just think there needs to be a mutual respect here when it comes to reps and retailers, and then also the consumers. And I see some retailers doing it wrong, and I'm not going to tell them that they're doing it wrong, because I don't want to be the guy that walks in and tells them that they're doing because that's their business, right? But if I can bring the energy, if I can make an impression on somebody, then that's one more person smoking Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars. And I think, in my opinion, that's what matters. But I think from my, I'm not going to say that because this was before my time, but I think that the waters have kind of been muddied throughout the years because of, say, the stake in the game and the people that are looking at the books and trying to make these marketing tactics and working with it and making these like curated requirements when you're bringing out a new cigar. I just don't think I understand it. I understand the business, because this is business, but you alienate a lot of retailers. And if we're being honest, that's the bread and butter of our industry.
I think there's the other side of the coin here, where you have to understand that on the middleman, the retailer in this industry, right, to the end consumer, there's a lot of competition. But to do your side of it, you just went through this massive rebranding, and a lot of times, again, I keep bringing Ryan into it. He's starting this new process with the watershed stuff, where it is a slow process. Aging tobacco obviously takes it. So you go back to the farmers. You guys don't own factories. You don't own the tobacco necessarily, right?
No.
But you're trying to forecast your sales. So any consumable product, you have to have it available to sell. That's the other thing. As smaller companies are trying to grow and everything like that, if you say, okay, I'll bring you on a boutique brand, let's do that order. Does well. All right, I need to order more. Yeah, we don't have it. Yeah. Okay, when are you going to have it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I need to keep selling product.
Yeah.
In general.
Correct.
To keep my doors open, keep my table with food on it.
And if we don't have the product for
you,
you're just going to give that to somebody else.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
move on. So you have the reliable side of it, where someone like a bigger company has the product or has something to sell. That's great. And when you're buying tobacco, a lot of times from other people, or you have to place certain orders, if you don't get that orders on the manufacturer side, and if you're not hitting those numbers, now all of a sudden you're at the back end of the order, the pecking order, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you get to the point where it's like everyone wants to do well. I will say in this industry, the liquor industry, there are people with it's just like, what is it? Your eyes are too big for your stomach, right?
Yeah.
You think the guy that kind of triggered this whole thing on Wayne, and Wayne, if you're still on there, I appreciate you listening here. When he says,
by the way.
when he says, I got 300 accounts / potential accounts in 5 or 6 states, 5 or 6 brands. I want to say, I don't know what he makes or how well he does. You're doing it wrong. That's too big. Like, slow down. Like, you know, like, I'm sorry.
He's probably doing pretty well though.
He might be, but do you do better as a company that, you know, like when you started with Crowned Heads, it's like, yeah, you're Midwest, this many states, and you're also this territory up here, and you're doing this. It's like, just don't even think about this territory up here yet.
Right.
You're not there. Let the product, in a sense, grow. Focus a little bit on a smaller area.
Well, and I had to make that decision when I started.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like, you shouldn't have that many accounts, and then all you're doing is, and again, that's then the business side of it, where they're like, I need more touches. I need you in this many accounts, this per day, and all that stuff. And that's how you're going to sell it. And I think that's the wrong sales philosophy when it comes to something that is an experience. You know, like, why would you just go in and be like, here's a couple samples, if you even do that. I'm Jake from Crowned Heads. You know, this is our stuff. This is that. I appreciate your time. I'll see you, you know, when I come back through town.
And I never do that. I never just drop by.
But I'm saying, like, if you're there's a brand, I'll just say it, Christoph Cigars. We carried Christoph for a long time. They went from brokers to in-house sales. And Kevin, who is technically still our rep, we haven't carried Christoph in a long time.
Yeah.
People stopped asking for it for the most part.
Also
once every 6 months. He has, like, whatever, 9-10 states, and we saw him every 6 months. Our customers don't know him.
Yeah.
They stopped really doing any advertising. The owner of the company is I haven't seen anything from him in a long time.
Right.
So it's like there has to still be this drive there
from the manufacturer's standpoint.
Or you're not interested in Columbus, Ohio, and that's fine. You know, it's totally fine. Well,
Yeah.
you know, you focus on these things. What is the right growth percentage? Everyone says if you grow too fast, that's a bad thing, typically, because you cannot
keep up
with that pace. You're gonna fail. When I was in the moving industry, I would always use this thing when I was trying to talk to the owners about it. When we'd have say 30 trucks going out, did not have 30 A crews. I had 10 A crews, but then we had 30 jobs going, or 30 trucks going out, right? 60 jobs. Now, doing a schedule with the service industry of that, the product really is the people.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, all right, so how many B crews and how many C crews do I have? Shit, this is a D crew, so I got to take him off of this, put him on there. All of a sudden, it's like the same thing as if you own a garage, and this is not because of your experience, Nate. I just looked out there when I said that, but it's like, if you've got 7 bays in your garage as a mechanic shop, and you're trying to keep all 7 bays, but you know you only have 4 good mechanics, and the other 3 are kind of like, I got to really watch their service.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the reviews start coming in.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I have to hit my sales numbers. I have to hit my sales numbers. I have to hit my sales numbers. And it's like you're basically creating your own virus at that point, because you're not giving the service that you want your name on.
Right.
So Crowned Heads, or, you know, Steve's Garage, if I know that 60% of my customers are going to be thrilled because they had mechanic A, B, C, and D, but if you get down to fucking E, F, and G, I hope they put the tires on right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then that guy just got fired. Now I got to fill that spot so I can hit my numbers and everything like that. It's like there's so many moving parts, but if you're putting on an inconsistent product or inconsistent service, like, why would anyone want to keep coming back?
That's actually one of the
very
it's one of the very common issues that I have seen on the wine side. We've had some companies where we've had some sales reps leave, And then, after that sales rep leaves,
Let's talk about
like their boss tries to take over the territory and trying to work it to try and keep the sales and stuff going. And then we're like, all right, cool. Like, when are you bringing someone on? Is someone, do you have another rep that can cover that's in the area? And we've had one particular company where like the sales manager has been calling on us for like the past 4 months.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where now he only comes once a week. Previously the sales rep came twice a week. Now we see this guy once a week.
Right.
And, when he does come, it's that, hey, here's what you have on the shelf. What do you want to order? He's not necessarily bringing us new products to see if we want to bring something onto the shelf.
Yeah.
So literally for that company right now, for the past several months, we're just keeping on the shelf what we've had and what has been selling well. We're not even bringing on new stuff because we don't even know if they're going to, if we still want to do business with them.
Well, and thank you, Ryan. Great meeting you. Yeah. Cheers. And I totally understand that point from a retail perspective. There's a happy medium here, and I think that can you explain what you guys were talking about, you and Bobby, Nate, with this comment? Because I don't want to be out of context.
So Bobby had made a comment about seeing better representation with some of the bigger companies, and
meaning the bigger companies have better representation.
Yeah. And so, I explained to him because when I was a sales rep for a cigar company, we didn't have a lot of sales reps covering the US. I think including in-house reps and brokers, we may have had about 10. And me being one of the in-house guys, I covered 7.5 states, and it was a massive territory.
They were big states.
Yes. And so, I had a 6-week rotation where I would hit all the main areas of my territory. The vast majority, probably 80 to 90% of the sales figures, I would hit those on a 6-week rotation.
Yeah.
Every now and then, that's when I would make those trips to some of those outside ones. But I would make sure I stayed in contact with them. And so my question that I asked in response to Bobby, are those bigger companies doing better with you because they have more reps covering smaller areas, which allow them to hit those accounts more often? Or is it because they're a big company and they're one of those brands that people just ask for?
Great question.
So it is two parts. For example,
I don't think that this is true. It doesn't matter if you would have sold me your product. Have representation.
He's saying that the biggest issue for him
is
as a retailer is
for the smaller companies.
There.
Yeah, is being there. And I totally understand.
And so that's something I was getting to earlier. I had said, like, when we would get a sales rep. So before Alec Bradley got purchased by General, all right, when it was just Alec Bradley and Ryan Ponist was our Alec Bradley rep.
Yeah.
We had some Alec Bradley cigars. It wasn't a huge portion of their portfolio that we carried at Tinder Box, but we did have some Alec Bradley cigars. Every time Ryan came into the store, whoever's working there, Ryan's given 4 cigars. Every single one of them.
Andy was working the humidor.
And he would work. Yes. If a customer came in, he would go out there. If he saw the rest of the staff was busy, he would absolutely jump in and do that customer service. And he's acting like he's working at the shop. And so even though we didn't carry a lot of Alec Bradley products at that time, when he left, because he took care of us, because he was helping us out, an hour later, if a customer comes in and they're looking for a recommendation, what am I going to recommend?
Right.
I'm going to recommend that Alec Bradley cigar. Why? Because Ryan was just in here and Ryan took care of me.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Jake. If Jake came in to the store and he's handing out stuff and he's talking to us and he's now, granted, you worked at Tinder Box, so we all love you.
Yeah, I can go back
Not
there
everyone.
and do it,
But-
not everybody.
Not
Well,
everyone.
Steve hates me.
Yeah, 4 out of
Hate's
5.
a strong.
4 out of
word.
5 ain't bad.
Strongly dislikes.
But no, when you go to that store,
Take it or
and,
leave it.
when you go to that store and you take care of the staff,
Correct.
that staff's going to sell your
To
product.
push your product.
That's
yes.
what I was talking about earlier with
Dude.
the wine industry. When you get those wine reps that talk to you and they give you the details, they may not necessarily taste you on the wines because you're not the one buying it. They're gonna pour that wine for my boss. But if they at least give me information on stuff that we have on the shelf,
Yeah.
when a customer comes in looking for a recommendation, if I think that sales rep is a good person and takes time to actually talk and engage with me, I'm more likely to sell their stuff. If I get that sales rep that comes in once a week, never talks to the rest of the staff, just stands there in the corner waiting for his turn, when someone comes in looking for something, I am not recommending their shit ever.
Right.
Again,
I don't care how good it is.
Again,
I
people
think
buy from people they like.
they buy from
This
people
is
they like.
this is old school fucking sales all throughout this, and this is a lot of industries. You have to like even to a point. You want to like your employees. You want to like you don't have to like every customer, but it's like I know that even in the retail side of things, there are days where it's like how was your weekend? How was your 4th, right? Some people are like, yeah, I didn't do anything. It's like, yeah, or, it's like, and they may ask you,
Yeah.
but sometimes you overshare and you're not going to rub everyone the right way. You try to do the sales, and it's just being a good person where it's like you try to pick up on the social cues. You try to pick up on their personality type. You try to, and there's training for that obviously as well. But you can talk to them. I'm not always just talking about cigars.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the widget here all the fucking time.
You're
because it's
basically building friendships on top of everything else.
I had customers come back in, and I don't know if they could give a shit about it, but it's like they knew that I was selling and buying a house. They come back in, and they're not even social media friends, and they're like, so did you get married yet? You know what I mean? Because I had talked to them about this stuff, because it's just you fill in the void of the silence there, and you're just like, you talk about it, and they're like, oh yeah, they tell you like, oh, I went and watched the fireworks, and it's like, oh, that's great, yeah. We didn't do a whole lot. We went, to New Albany, watched the fireworks. I went, did this and that, and they're like, oh, okay. Next time they come in, you start like having a little bit more. There's just this what's the return on investment? I put that in the description of this, is that if you're always looking for an immediate return on investment, you're trying to close the sale, you're trying to make sure that they just buy it to put food on your table. That's not how it typically works. Like Bobby Hirschman's comment, the rep makes a big sale on a smaller company, you don't see them again for 6 months because now they're elsewhere. And it's like
a good point.
You can't do that. You can't not talk to them. You got to continue these touches. You have to continue the whole thing.
But I will say the touches, our biggest enemy, especially like, I guess in my case, for the smaller companies, which is what Bobby's talking about, is time. That is the biggest enemy. And, to bring back what Steve was talking about with time management, and look, like I think everybody can always work on time management, but one thing that you mentioned was about how you focus on one area. Say you have a large area. So for example, I'll give you this, is that, so I started with Ohio, Michigan, Western PA, upstate New York, and New England. Obviously, that probably seems like a lot of craziness to a lot of people. We have a broker that's out in New York that handles Philadelphia and Eastern PA. So he's got not only us, but he has multiple companies. So I can't attest to what he's doing. But then I was given Indiana. I was given Kentucky, and now they've taken New England away from me and also given me Colorado. I think what we're really dealing with is a communication and respect issue, where if you communicate to, say, our new accounts, and I say, hey, if I'm not going to be able to see you every 4 weeks, every 8 weeks even, and so, or even longer, and it's my travel, because we do so many events and I do so many events, is that my travel is based off the events, and I want to get my visits in. I feel bad for my friends at B&G's in West Carrollton, Ohio, south of
Great
Dayton,
guys.
Brian and Gonzo. Great guys, great people. And I just looked yesterday and I hadn't seen them. They're in my Super A accounts, and I haven't seen them in 4 or 5 months. And that's on me. And however, I'm not making excuses, but I've been spending most of my time up in Michigan this year with bigger accounts up there, because I left Michigan and Indiana dormant for a long time. And because I was focusing on Ohio, I was focusing on Pittsburgh, I was focusing on upstate New York and also New England. So but now I have that time where I can reshift my schedule, and now I get Kentucky too. So like my plan next week is to do a world tour, as far as that goes, with, Dayton, Cincinnati, Kentucky, Indiana, and then come and do a whole loop around the northern part of Ohio. And those are places that I've on my personal level have let go because of my focus elsewhere. And that's what I'm trying to explain, is that it's not just getting on the road and waking up at 8 a.m. and doing your workout and going and getting some breakfast and driving to your next stop and doing that 4 or 5 times a day. And hopefully you get to 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 stores a day. And then at the end of the day, you get to relax. And it's like, for me, I think what I enjoy on the road is that when I'm on the road, I'm on the road. So I'm getting to see those accounts. I go in late as well, and I'm out till 10 or 11 in those stores, or the lounges, depending on how late they're staying open. But it all drives back to this big point of that there needs to be a mutual respect between the reps and the retailers, and then it leads into that consumer. And if that can't happen, then, like for us, we're a smaller brand, so I don't necessarily like to be this way with certain retailers, but at a certain point, I'm not saying the majority, but in very, very small percentage of retailers, maybe we're not the best fit for each other. And I think that is a man-to-man conversation that needs to happen sometimes. And so, to Bobby's point, where it's like this, be of service, I totally understand that. That's what we're talking about. But I think if the communication's there and you talk about how long it's going to be until I get there, and you're honest, and if they don't like it, then maybe you need to take a special trip. And I do that from time to time. And I think that the majority of us that are good, and even the people that I look up to, as far as Josh Bentley and Ryan Ponist and even Dave, and Dave's a great guy, and Tyler from Espinosa, and Eric Videla, who's now with Oliva, that is all of PA and kind of handles that eastern part of the United States. Like, I think we do a good job at time management, but unfortunately sometimes we fall short, and we miss these opportunities of seeing these accounts that we need to. But I think it's also on the retailers' responsibility too, to make it known. Like I had a guy, and I don't think Tom would be upset that I'm mentioning this, but Tom from the office down in New Albany, Southern Indiana, right across from Louisville. He reached out to me today and said, "Hey, when are you coming by?" It's been a minute. The last time I came by, I was seeing a concert, kind of killed 2 birds with one stone. He wasn't there. I stopped by, left him some cigars. We do a really good thing, I think, and try to keep our integrity, where we have these slips,
Those handwritten notes.
The handwritten
Yep.
notes.
Yeah.
And I try to say as much as I can on those, and always want to bring positivity to that. And I think that does a really good job if we're not in the areas as much as we want to be. But it's a give and take. It really is a give and take. And I'm sorry that Bobby just doesn't have the correct representation that he wants with some of us, and maybe it's even us. And if he wants me to reach out to Miguel personally, I will, and tell him to drop by, because we'd love to have crowned heads in there. But it's every rep's different. Every person's different. All of us deal with a lot, and it's a game of time. It's a game of time management, and it's a game of respect. And I think when there's issues that start with respect, and especially when you're meeting somebody brand new and they want to treat the rep like shit, which there's no really any real meaning to do that,
No,
or
no
treat,
reason
or
for
the
that.
rep meaning to treat the retailer just like a money pit, then, you know, that's where we lose respect, and all that carries over. I think that is the psychological issue that carries over and projects into every other interaction that we deal with within this industry.
Well, you left out strategy, and I think that let's just kind of, if we can't
Pump
put
the brakes.
Put it to bed that if you just, whether you're the rep or whatever side you are on this transaction, right? If you go into a store and you're treated like shit, like the employee doesn't want to be there, they're the owner and they just feel like you're bothering them by walking into their store to buy shit. Like, let's take that off the table, because that's just stupid. That's bad business. It's bad. It's just bad. You're not just, you got your own issues.
Being a
going
bad
on.
person.
Like, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not going to shop at your store if every time I go in there, unless it's a necessary evil, which again, in your industry
Does happen.
It
from
happens
time to time.
You know, they're a huge account, and you have to go in there, you get beat up every time, and it's like, fuck, I wish I didn't have to deal with this person, but they spend a lot of money.
The funny part, if I may interrupt, is the funny part that I see is the best accounts that you have great relationships
Mhm.
with, you actually see them less. You see them less, and they don't mind.
So
They some of them, not all of them, but I will say that I have the majority of my
that's only if
the relationship.
in this industry, if the customers are still, like, if it's still selling,
Correct.
that's the business side of it.
But that's
There's
tied
still
into a good
need.
account. That's
But
tied
I'm
into a
saying,
good
like,
account.
it's not it's
not a one size fits all. I get it.
it's not like, and I don't own the shop, but it's not my problem if people stopped asking for it, and not you, Jake, but if the rep, like, if they stop showing up, and it's like, you know, well, shit, we had our Fuente rep in today, and I told him, I said, you know, it's like, we're not really qualified to get a whole lot of Opus anymore. And it's like, look, man, like, to be honest, and I pulled out a magazine that just came out from Cigar Snob, and I said, I don't know what the expectation is, but when was the last time you guys ran an ad for your 858s, double chateaus, your core lines that you want us to carry to qualify, to spend enough to carry the Opus, to carry the stuff? And I said, and then right here, you're advertising on a 2-page spread a blend that you made like 2,000 boxes of that we can't get, that no one can get. They're already basically sold. So what's the strategy here of you saying you got to buy more stuff to carry these levels of things? And it's like, but you guys don't want to do events. You don't want to do multi-vendor events. And all you do is advertise shit even on the blogs. You release shit that you made 1,000 boxes of that costs like ridiculous amounts.
Right.
No disrespect to like a company like Fuente, which is, for those that aren't as familiar with it, but it's like, say, you know, it's a tire company and all they do is advertise their high-end stuff. And all they want the tire discounters to buy all their like basic stuff. And it's like
Buffalo Trace
why
wanting
would I
everybody
do
to buy
that?
Pappy when they want to sell Wheatley.
And all you do, but they actually do advertise. If you're not showing up, there's no relationship, and there's no, like, you're not putting the return on investment is so skewed that it's like there's an expectation. You talk about respect, Jake. It's the expectation on both sides of the equation here.
I didn't mention that. No.
I think, and I go back to the whole strategy thing. You want us to buy this stuff. You're not advertising it. You're not doing us any favors. So people have stopped asking for it. Right. And so then all you do is really promote the stuff that no one can get, but I can get 2 boxes of cigars, or I can get whatever the widget is. I can get this limited amount if I spend all this stuff, but you're not even promoting their other stuff. So you're not doing any good service by me. And you want us to continue promoting your brand when I got other brands that are actually selling because there's more identity in this shop.
Right.
There's, as long as we're still selling and hitting our numbers as a retailer, it's not our fault. It's not my fault that you have spread yourself so thin.
I get that.
And and I'm not going to take it because we're too late in the evening, but it's like the same thing in a friendship, in a personal relationship. You've spread yourself so thin that we don't spend any time together and you never check in on me. I still have 24 hours out of my day that I'm going to live my life. So don't be mad at me if I'm not like available when you want to do something. You know what I mean? I'm not available to sell your shit when you come back around and you're like, well, you haven't ordered anything. It's like, and you sold through your stuff. I'm like, yeah, it took me 8 months to sell through that stuff. And
Are
I
you
had to put
talking
it
to
on
me
special.
right now, or what?
I'm talking in general.
Not about our friendship.
Not at all.
You sure?
No.
I'm positive. I am absolutely positive. I'm looking at
I just
it.
want to lighten it up a little bit.
No, it's the same thing. It
is the same thing.
On
It's a
the
good
personal
point.
side of it.
It's
It's
a good
like
point.
Kristen and I have we had to reevaluate when we do these like open invitations to parties and stuff like that. We're always hosting. We're trying to get people there, and it's like some people show up, and it's like next time around, like no one else is inviting us to shit. But we understand that it's like not everyone's doing things. You know what I mean? So the same thing on the business side of it. It's like, hey, no disrespect, but no one's asking for your shit anymore.
So
you haven't been around. Well, it's because I got 8 states and I got this, and it's like. Sounds like a you problem. Sounds like your company problem.
Well,
it's like
I don't.
You need to structure that. Anyone that starts a business, they'll tell you, like most industries, you're not going to make money for how many years of doing it. So don't expand so fast that then all of a sudden they give a rep like, hey, or a broker rep, I'm going to give you 10% of this, or a broker rep. I mean, some of these companies, and I don't know what it's at right now, but several years ago, it was like, all right, so we're gonna pay you, $40,000 a year plus all your expenses to rep eight different states and 300 and 400 accounts. And if you hit these numbers, all that stuff, and it's like, well, that's impossible for me to see all these accounts.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's what we're hiring for. And then the comments from like Bobby Hirschman, like, oh, we get more representation from the established account because they've gotten there. A bigger company. We had one of our reps that used to work for one company. Now he's working for another company. And it's like, yeah, the territory's smaller. They've established themselves. So I don't have to do 8 states. And all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, you're still hitting the same numbers because not only has that been an established relationship, but it's like grow to your strengths and grow to the territories. Don't come out fired. Like, I'm going to hire this person and pay him this. But you won't see anyone. If you're going to be successful with this, you won't see anyone for the next 3 years.
So
it's like, okay, well, then train the person.
But I like that you're playing both sides of it.
Because there is both sides.
There is both sides of it. And I think it just drives back to what Nate was saying earlier about how every individual account has to have the communication and respect within that personal relationship. It can't work any other way, because then we have these issues where and it is fact. Like, we had an example. We have, Phil Davis, who has been on here and came in as the Cookie Monster and also Santa back in the day, on the podcast, like probably in episode like 40 and 50. But, we have a mutual friend that wants to open us up, and he expects to see every rep. He came by our booth at PCA this year, and it was really nice to see him. And I'm not his rep, obviously, because he's in, I think, Arkansas or Oklahoma. And he expects his reps to be there every 3 to 4 weeks. And with our rep down in Texas, Brian's been doing this for over 20 years as well. And, it's just not feasible. He has Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Mexico, Oklahoma. You just think about that vast territory, and it's just not feasible. But I think what it drives down to is the communication. If you have a rep and you build that communication, and you don't treat that rep like shit when he first walks in, or you give him attitude and you project on the people on the outside of your internal self,
sure,
then I think people can build a relationship and have a common respect amongst each other. And then the great part about that is that transforms it transitions into
long-term return on
the
investment.
Consumer. It transitions into the consumer, and therefore you may have a great brand. And if you're not having if you're having a bad time in like for instance, I'll give another example, like Smokestack out in Pittsburgh, PA. Smokestack, when I first got in there, we were doing really good. They did a great job for me. In 6 months, we opened up the account that was dormant for over 3 years. We opened it up, then we kind of trickled down from here and there. I had a great talk with the owner, and we came up with a plan. I sat down with the owner and also the GM, and we came up with a plan, and we've already exceeded last year's number 2 times.
Great.
And so I think that on both sides, the retailers want to see the work and the ethic, the work ethic from the manufacturers, and they want to see the respect from their reps, and they want to hear the communication, and they want them to be honest. They don't want them loading orders. They don't want them, and what I mean by that, for people that don't know, they don't want them putting extra boxes in there and making them just deal with it. They don't want misrepresentation by their rep. They don't want misprinted labels. They don't want extra shipping charges. They don't want the extra time and from order till shipment. There's a lot of variables here that go into this industry that I had no idea until I was on this side of things. And if we can talk about it, which is what we're doing, and understand the problems from both sides and come up with these solutions on communication, and understanding that there needs to be a little bit of grace from both sides, I think we would all be in a better place.
Well, and sometimes a little less expectations. Like you just said not too long ago, it's like the B&G, those guys down there. It's like maybe your numbers are down. You know what I mean? That there's technology out there that should be able to just like trigger that. You know what I mean? Sales, like fucking spreadsheets. Like fuck, it's just like it's not that. Like we used to do spreadsheets like by hand before Excel. You know what I mean? Like there's things that if you're putting effort into tracking this stuff, now it's fucking easy if you have the right CRM, or if you, I don't know what you guys use, but it's like there's a customer relation management program. It's like all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's ways to do it. It's like, hey, this account's down, but you have to be putting the effort in to see that, and then reach out again, going back to the communication things. Like there's so many different ways you can reach out to people.
Well,
like
they're
you
not
can text,
down,
you can
and they're not
Facebook
down.
Messenger.
It's just based on, I know.
I'm not saying they are.
I know. I'm just explaining for an example standpoint is that I know they're not down, but I know in my heart that I need to spend more time there. They deserve more of me, because they have been with the company. The account has been with the company for so long. We have a great relationship, and I've neglected them because I knew that they were good. And that's being flat out honest. That's your classic. And I have to come up,
right?
Well, Ryan Ponus makes a great example when he speaks to reps, and you want to talk about somebody that's flat out like crass sometimes. Like Ryan is dead honest, and I can appreciate it with a lot of things. And one thing he says with us reps that are smaller businesses and smaller manufacturers that have big territories, he makes the analogy of you're building up a sandcastle, and then you go over to this one and you're building up a sandcastle, and then that one falls, and you have to go up here and build that sandcastle again, and then that one falls. So that's why I mean is it's a game of give and take, and our enemy is time. And the best that all us reps can do is put our time and effort and give the respect to the retailers, and give time to the retailers, and not just show up, say, how's it going? Do you need anything? And just leave. I think that is the absolute worst way to drum up any business. It's the worst way to create relationships.
Sure.
And I don't condone that at all.
Nate, or so you've been trying to get in.
Sorry.
No. So I've seen in the brief period of time that I was a rep, I had 2 different accounts that were the exact opposite of the spectrum. So the one I started to talk about like an hour ago was I had that shop that
an hour ago.
My second week on the job is calling me, and he's like, "How long have you been with the company?" I'm like, "Well, this is my second week." Why? His follow-up question was, "Why haven't you been to my store?"
Sure.
Like, well, I'm being trained. My boss is the one who set the schedule. I'll be there in that area next week. He expected, and he told me flat out, he expected his sales reps to be there every 2 weeks.
That's
That's
not
fine.
And,
feasible.
and I tried to explain to him, I'm in Columbus. Yes, your previous rep lived in your town. I'm not there. Like, I'm going to be there.
Off, man.
I said, I can be there every month, but I just have too big of a territory to be there every 2 weeks. Now, if you sit there and tell me, well, I'll place a $3,000 order with you every 2 weeks, cool. I'll be there. I will go out of my way to be there to place that order, because that'll be a big deal.
Yeah, so that's an ego
but,
thing.
But he wasn't even in a top 3 account in that city.
No, but like, why would I need you to be there every like that make there's
So
no
I
logic there, right? That is
well,
a
Are you
that's
doing a
power move.
turnover every 2
Doesn't
weeks?
matter.
Yeah.
So
But I
you
also
walk
told
in
him-
my door to like, if this was back in the day where I had to literally like sign something to place the order,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like telephones didn't exist.
You had a
at that
physical
point.
order form.
So, but it's like, I can't speak to this, but at that point, if you want to have a little bit of like, like Bobby saying, like all through, it's really easy to be like, so you need me to like, my follow-up question is like, you need me to be in your store to place that $3,000 order. Is it me being there? Does that help sell the product? And if so, how does that help me? How does that help you sell the product if I'm stopping in for you to place the order
For an hour.
for an hour? Like, so is it, do you want me talking to your customers, or what do you need from me? That situation, I'd place a bet
Power
on.
move.
It's a power move, because it's like, no, I just want you there so I can place the order. And it's like, so it's the great thing is that
I literally
so
told
Luke,
that guy. like, I will-
Nook said that tonight about Miguel from Crown Heads now.
Yep.
He said, my territory is big. I can't be here all the time. My phone's always on. So that if someone's like, yeah, but I want you here, it's like, I'm sorry to say, I'm not going to be here. If my product's selling though,
But you're giving a solution.
if my product's selling
Yeah.
that much,
and you're giving a solution.
I have no problem placing a weekly order for a 1,500 if that's what works for you.
Yeah.
And let me talk to my office about trying to like figure out maybe working with you on shipping, because this is how your cash flow works. No problem. I'll work on that.
or better terms.
better
What-
terms.
yeah. So like, that's fine.
Well, and
But that's
I told the
again,
guy, I
going to
said, I
Jake's
can,
point, that's a communication thing.
and I told him, I said, look, I understand your previous rep was there every 2 weeks because they lived in town.
Sure.
If you want me to call you, like I said, I'll be there every month. If you want me to call you in between, I can do that. If you want to text,
Yeah.
if we need to email, like if that's what you need, like I'll do that in between my visits. The exact opposite I had was we had a sales rep. So when I started with the company, even though I'm based in Columbus, right before I started, they actually carved Cincinnati out of the territory,
Mhm.
and someone else was covering Cincinnati, even though I'm an hour and a half away from Cincinnati.
Sure.
And that sales rep had scheduled an event in Cincinnati before he left. And so I get a call from my boss saying, hey, there's an event scheduled at a shop in Cincinnati
Sure.
the Saturday before Christmas. Can you cover that event? I'm like, yeah, I know that account. I know the owner of that account because I went there when I was in college and used to drive down there when Miguel was doing events.
Okay.
I know the guy. I'll go cover that event. And it turned out that the rep put in the wrong hours. The event was supposed to be from like 2
Okay, but that's a unique
But-
circumstance. Yeah.
But I went down there. I went down to that area, and I stopped in at one of the largest accounts in the state of Ohio. And I go down there.
Houston.
No.
No.
Well, like I
Okay.
said, it was in Cincinnati.
There are other accounts.
Jumbo Gyms.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I go down there.
Fairfield or Eastgate.
All right. To the listeners.
Yes.
I'm
So,
curious.
but no, I was
You
talking
guys can
to Chris Carver, if you remember him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to Chris, and he's like, well, what do we have on the shelves from you right now? I said, well, right now you just have this one product. And the associate that was working the register is like, oh, we have some of their other stuff in the closeout bin.
Great.
And well, Chris slow turned at this guy because he knows there are different companies have issues with closeouts, like you can't sell their stuff for certain.
Right.
Contracts goes. Yeah.
Yes. And he just slow turned at this guy and started walking with him. I was like, nope, you guys. Chris came back and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know who did that. Like, obviously one brand, one facing from you guys is not what we want to carry. And I flat out told him, I said, Chris, you haven't seen a sales rep from this company
Sure.
in 8 months. I don't blame you in the least
Right.
for not carrying the product you used to.
But that's where you added the humility and the communication, right?
So I was,
The
and
respect.
I said, look, I'm now,
Communication, humility.
I said,
that order.
I
Same thing?
said,
Got it.
because I live in Columbus and I know you guys,
Perfect.
I can go to my boss and have you put into my territory. And so I can make you the promise that I'm going to
Sure.
be here every 4 to 6 weeks. I will give you that representation, that service. If that is what you need, I will be here in order to, keep this relationship going.
For
And-
being an hour and a half
and-
away and it was probably a huge account, that probably was perfect.
And as soon as I did that, like he's like, all right, cool. Here's what I want.
Yep.
And it was a big
Sure.
it was a big order. And when I placed it, I got a call from the office because some of the cigars that they had placed were limited to larger accounts.
Mm.
So the office manager is calling me going, hey, this person doesn't qualify to carry this product. And I went, they did until the previous sales rep stopped calling on them.
Just keep
So-
bringing up Ryan Ponus, the previous salesperson from Alec Bradley, just didn't leave his
Still
apartment.
Alec Bradley, but yeah.
Yeah. But before
Forged.
him, it was a guy that was showing up, and then all of a sudden you basically hear, like, we haven't seen him in like a year. He's like, yeah, well, he's just like kind of working from his apartment pool.
Right. Which is out there. I get it.
Yeah.
It's all around.
Richard Beard said, what do you guys think of companies trying to inside sale call shops only?
That's lazy.
Yeah.
Having an inside
So-
salesman.
Only inside salesman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can argue all that. It's if it works for you, it's like, it's if it's working for the business, both sides of it, guys. I mean, Padron doesn't have any reps.
That's true.
So if you're
but
in the cigar industry,
they're also
it's
one of the
like-
most sought after brands out there.
again,
If you're
don't
not that guy-
understand- no, but I don't understand why there's never a one size fits all. If you're hitting your numbers as a manufacturer, so if you're the starting sales part of it to the end consumer, if you're hitting your numbers, great. You know what I mean? That you're forecasting, you're trying to hit quotas and all that stuff. You're hitting it, and you think you're doing well, fine. Don't be mad at the retailers if they don't respond well, certain ones. And on the same side of it, it's like, you got to take it, like, everyone's got a different reason from their vantage point of the process. And, I look at these reps coming in. If you haven't established it, but you have a good established relationship with a rep that's been with the company, Jake, like you haven't seen the B&G type thing, not to keep harping on that, but there are friends in my life that I don't see as often, but when we do see each other, when we talk, it's like you don't miss a beat. You have those friends, right?
Oh yeah. You're one
and-
of them, right? I hope.
yeah, but I'm just saying, it's like there's no
Me
hard
too.
feelings, but things evolve, right? Hey, we used to do that together all the time, and like, yeah, I'm still doing that with this new group of guys or these friends. Like, I don't golf, but it's a real easy way to like, oh, we used to golf all the time together, or we used to smoke cigars together all the time. Yeah, no, I still smoke cigars. It's just like I've got you should meet them. You should meet the guys I'm smoking cigars
Let's
with.
do it again.
Yeah, like if you're free, like and all that stuff. But there's also, in the business world and in the personal world is, it's like, yeah, we need to get together. It's like, yeah, we do need to get together. That'd be great. You let me know when you want to get together. Yeah, you too. 6 months, a year goes by, 2 years goes by. You cross paths again. It's like, yeah, how are things going? It's not like I've been sitting looking at a wall the whole time.
I just don't like
it's the same thing with cigars.
I
It's
don't
like,
like
Same
the-
thing with family.
Well, I don't like the comment of "let me know."
well, but that's pretty. Hey, it's
I know
sales.
it's pretty generic.
Sales, same thing. Like, let
I
me know if
know.
you need anything.
I know.
I've
but
been busy. I haven't been down there, but like I'm still able to
but
place an
that's
order
but
for you.
That's a half-ass comment. That's not
It
that's
is.
not you taking initiative. That doesn't show anybody that anybody cares.
100%.
Actually, it's the opposite of that. It shows that you care less because you're putting it in the next person's boat.
Your priorities have shifted.
Well,
So if
I understand what you're saying, but
where you have a large territory, not you, I'm saying like in the conversation we're having, if you have a large territory and your powers that be above you, if you don't own the company, are pushing you to do other things and have a big territory and all that stuff, it's just like someone that has a family and has other responsibilities.
yeah,
And it's like, I would love to get together. And all of a sudden you look at the next like 6 months. Little Bobby is, he's doing baseball now, so we're traveling all the time. I'm super busy, and then little Susie's doing this, and so I just, and then she's got me doing, and I got to do stuff around the house and all that stuff. I was like, that's great, man. I'm happy things are going well for you. Same thing with like if you're doing this job. Yeah, I'm got 8 states. I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm doing really well. It's like that's fantastic. Do you need anything? No, honestly, we're doing really well too. Oh, okay. Do you want to get some of the new stuff that your stuff's really slowed down. I had a conversation with Rice's Cubanas is now a new company. I don't know if everyone knows that in cigars.
I don't know.
Their factory in Honduras. Rice's Cubanas is Ralph Montero from Alec Bradley, who was basically Alan Rubin's kind of blender and everything like that, right? So he's doing something. We want to support him, and we had a call from them today, from the sales manager. And the first part was, hey, what do you think of the samples I sent you? Yeah, so you sent us 4. I thought that, because that's how I am, I don't know what Brian would have said, the owner of the shop. Yeah, we narrowed down. Like, those 2 were really good. That one, the Connecticut was okay, all that stuff. It's like, yeah, what do you think you got ordering? No, not really the right time to bring you guys on. You know what I mean? If you want to check back in a month or 2, like, we'll see if we're ready for it. If it's starting to get some traction, you know what I mean?
Well, that would be my question would be like, okay, so when I'm going to call you back here in a month.
Yeah.
And see where it goes. And
I'm not putting you off, because that's easy to do. It's just to push you off, right? Yeah, we should get together. Yeah, absolutely. And then you call and you're like, hey, you want to get together? Yeah, no, I'm not really available and all that stuff. Like, eventually you just stop calling. But
yeah,
sometimes it is valid. I told the person on the phone, nice guy. And I said, our sales just started picking up finally. Weather's starting to level out a little bit. It's been weird year. Like the cigars, no one really knows about them. But, we're not in the place to bring on a new company.
Yeah, at least you're honest.
Yeah, well, that goes back to communication. I think that's how we should kind of round this out at this point.
That's my biggest issue.
It's just communicating.
Yep.
It's like, and if you don't, honestly, I didn't say this, but it's like, it's one of those things. Like, I'd be happy to say, or if you are doing well and you guys don't have time to call back, that's fine. I've got your contact information. I'll call you, but I'd love for you to call me back in 2 months.
Yeah.
See where we're at as we round the summer out. May not be a good fit then, but hopefully, if you guys keep growing and you guys
what
hit
Miguel
some
would
traction.
say, and we've all been in sales. What the better thing to say is, okay, you're not ready. Totally understand. We're here when you're ready. However, is it okay if I call you back here in about 6 weeks to make sure that we're all good? Just to check in.
Just to follow up.
Just to follow up.
My wish list for this industry, you guys can, if you're listening and you're not in the cigar industry, you can translate this any way you want. If you're in the cigar industry, right? So let's go crown heads. Let's shoot with this, right?
Yeah.
All right. If the budget allows, these are my wish list items from a retailer standpoint, right? So the middleman get to the consumer if you're not selling direct to consumer. What is based on the territory, and as a sales manager, I'm going to tell you, all right, so you got this many accounts, and I'm going to factor in the estimated travel time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to want you to focus on, and again, I don't know, I doubt this happens. We don't have any numbers on exactly what's expected based on, because there's no pooled information. PCA, some of these organizations don't really give you that information.
Right.
So you don't know. So you're creating the wheel every time. But of these, so you have Ohio. I need you to really focus on Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Dayton's also the B level of where I think there's some shops based on what my internet research is and what we have. I need you to focus on the state of Ohio. I want you to give this percentage of time on these. So what, just on paper, this is what I got. So you can spend 30 minutes in these accounts, and you can spend 15 minutes in these accounts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, Davidoff did this at one point, big company, I understand that. I'm going to give you these cigars They're not cigarillos, but I'm going to give you these small cigars. So these are your in shop smokes. Not giving you Toros, not giving you Robustos. I'm giving you
Petite Corona.
4x40s, 4x38s, 4x40s.
Sample cigars.
Right. Just and granted, these will smoke a little different than what. So when you walk in, and I talked to this, but Jonathan Herring used to be on the show a couple times. No reps were coming in smoking cigars. Some reps don't smoke cigars, so it's like, all right, so I'm giving you 20 minutes on average, 23 minutes on average, between 15 and 30 minutes. Hand these out and light one up in these stores. Don't smoke on the road if you don't want to, but 5 accounts a day. I need you to smoke these 5 small cigars. You can leave it. You just light them up with them. So now all of a sudden, instead of you get some of the trunk stock, but you also get these small cigars. That these are the talking point cigars. These are your elevator speech cigars.
Okay.
Right. This is the marketing cigars.
Right.
If the manufacturer can put them together.
Right.
And then also I love this thing from a retailer standpoint is if we were allowed to give out sample cigars to consumers, and I allotted that in my budget, now all of a sudden I'm going to say, you have the discretion of if you want to send a box to a retailer. So instead of going to 5 different accounts and handing out 6 cigars, you got one for this many, whatever it is, this time around, this quarter, a quarter of those shops, instead of handing out 5 to 10 cigars, the old school way, I'm going to give you a box of 21 cigars that I allow you to, hey, can I just ship you, or I'll hand you, if that's legal, but I can ship you this box of Robustos of this blend. Just put it on your shelf, see how it goes. You guys don't have to push it. Just see if there's any traction there. Drug dealer, first one's free.
One problem with it.
Okay.
So I can tell you from somebody that does that on a regular basis.
Sure.
Sending boxes, sending Christmas care packages, or when I'm down in Nashville, I'm at the warehouse. I like to send out,
Sure.
thank you packages
Sure.
to
Yeah.
my better accounts, and some people that I think that could be great and that haven't done well in recent years. So I send just a care package. You know what retailers do?
What?
They put the damn box on the shelf. They put it in the bins. They sell.
So that's what
and
what I'm saying is that's the goal. I'm literally saying, like, I'm going to send you this box, and I want you to. So this is the suggested retail.
Okay,
you have
just want a free box.
You have no buy-in. Well, you're handing out to consumers like firsthand. So you take away the Jake Sanders or the rep to consumer.
Okay.
You take that away, but it's like, hey, you know what? Tell you what, can I leave this box with you? Suggested retail is $12.95. I'm just gonna there's 20 cigars, 21 cigars in there. Put it on the shelf.
Okay.
It's on me.
So you want a free box.
I'm not saying I want one, but I'm saying it's
I know.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
the
if
retailers
you want to get in an account,
give a free
instead
box.
of handing out free cigars,
Give a free box on the shelf and see how it goes.
just say, yeah, I got a box. Here you go. Like
Yeah.
all that stuff. This is the one that we're smoking.
Right.
4 by whatever.
Right.
If you like, if it goes well, great.
Yeah.
If there, and I'll come back, in 3 months, whatever, call me if it just goes like crazy.
It's a lot of free product.
But you're already giving it out as trunk stock to the staff. I tell you what, I'm going to hand you this box of these.
That's what you're saying.
The next 3 accounts that day, you don't hand it out.
Yeah.
So there's 20-ish cigars.
You got to figure out who to give it to.
Yes, that's part of it. So, but I'm not saying these are not just the answers. This is just spitballing things where it's like,
I like the solution.
It's
a
just
good idea.
simply,
I get it.
Hey, if I don't know if this is your cup of tea, but it's if I give you this, can you put it on the shelf free of charge?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I tell you, some of those curmudgeons that you're dealing with, they're going to be like, what's the catch? Literally no catch. And you explain it. I'm seeing 4 more accounts today. I used to be able to hand out 4 cigars to each of them.
Yeah.
Today I'm allowed to do this. So I want to give it to you and you don't have to push it. You don't have to do anything like that. I just want to see how it goes, and we'll see if you guys want to. It's one of those things. Next time around, I will tell you this though. I can't give you a second one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when I see an 8 to 12 weeks, I can't give you another one. I'll have another sample for you.
It's a hard.
There's
line.
no right answer.
There's no right answer, and I'm just playing devil's advocate with that. I like the idea. I think we, as Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars, would be all over that. But the only but here is one being that like we don't have any minimums like when you open up an account right with us. So
which is rare.
Which is very rare. However, what I always suggest and it's a suggestion, is if we don't have, 5 to 6 facings to start with, then there's no established brand there. There's no.
I agree.
And so, and that would be my only problem with what you're suggesting is that if you stick one now, here's the caveat, or the caveat is if you took that box and you put it right at the register and said, hey, we're trying out a new brand, pick up one, just pick up one, come back, give us a review. We'd love to hear your response.
Oh yeah.
That little bit from the retailer, I think would go a long way with manufacturers. So I think just that effort from the manufacturers would go a lot with the retailers.
Here you go. As Nate with your retail vantage point now, Jake with yours, you grow off this idea, and this is a spitballing type of thing, and we do need to round out. We're hitting 3 hours here, but it's
do you expect anything less?
No. But I tell you what, all right, you don't want to do that, that's fine, it's still on me. But I tell you what, what's your average like? Do you buy like 2 cigars, 3 cigars, 4 cigars? If you can push them to just buy anything on your shelves, 4 cigars.
Yeah.
4 cigar, anything, mix and match.
Yeah, give them that one.
You get a free cigar.
Yeah, and it's by Crowned Heads.
Crowned Heads. We don't care it. We're just trying to figure it out.
Yep.
You can.
We've done that. I do that all the time.
Throw it away. I don't know why you throw it away, but like
I do that all the time.
Give 4 of them to your staff, and then you got this many cigars, and you don't even have to promote it. Just when you're talking to the customers, hey, I tell you what, you buy 4, get 1. Oh, wait, one. No, so you buy any 4 cigars, and I'm going to give you one of these Crowned Heads. Like it's a new brand that we're thinking about picking up.
Create a fantasy pack or whatever.
It, man. I don't give a shit.
Variety
but it's just that little bit. And I tell you what, drug dealers have had this figured out for years. First one's on me.
Yeah,
that's it.
But we smoke our own supply.
Well, you got to budget that too.
I know Tyler does.
We know Tyler does.
No,
I think that's how I want to give you guys, just as we round this out, is be of service. You do have to figure out what the personality types are of you, and then also of the different people you're coming across. This is any relationship, but in sales, it's absolutely imperative that you do that. You cannot go in thinking you know better than them and you know how to do their business,
and vice versa.
But I think there is a little give and take, and that goes with those types of things and how you're budgeting certain things. Not every company has samples. Not everyone. It's why you, back in the day, you wine and dine a client. You spent the money not knowing you're going to get that deal.
Yeah.
Fucking watch Mad Men. That's actually based on
wine and dining.
Wine and dining.
And some people still do. It's just
you
tough.
buy. Yeah, there's no. But part of that thread of what we
and people have made a mockery.
Is someone said that like style. Swag is like overdone now, and I'm like,
I don't think so.
8 years ago, maybe less.
CAO, look at CAO. How they used to do.
You couldn't get a fucking free T-shirt from a company. You guys have any swag? No.
Yeah.
Oh, and now you got an LED sign behind us.
That was my company. The company I used to work for.
Yeah.
I couldn't get shit when finally got into
that's the thing. It's like those are the freebies. It's like, do they do anything? The whole thing is that you get Crowned Heads is really good at it. You get some cool swag that people want to actually fucking wear.
Mm-hmm. We just don't have enough of it.
Well, but I'm saying it was not that long ago when companies in this industry and other sales industries where they used to have a dinner budget, a drink budget as a salesperson, you could take your clients out or potential clients. They ripped that away because people that were sitting around that boardroom were like, we don't have the budget anymore. Then they saw the sales not go well, and they're like, we're going to have to like invest in this again.
People abused it.
Well, of course, people abused it.
Like reps abused it highly. They still do.
Round it out, boys.
No, you go ahead.
No.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. guys.
You haven't talked for a minute, and I apologize, Nate. So you go ahead.
No, the whole idea of be a service. You have to. Who are you trying to sell for? If you own your own business, obviously you're trying to sell any product in order to be able to make your numbers. If you are selling as a brand, obviously you got to try and you got to find that common ground with all of your accounts. You got to try and get your stuff out there in order to be able to hit your numbers. You know, I used to have sales reps when I worked in the energy industry. They would go after very big accounts,
Sure.
and they would win a handful of those big accounts a year. But they were hitting accounts that were so big. If they hit 4 of those accounts, they were the number 1 sales rep in the company.
Sure.
And then, you know, the sales reps that I worked the most with were the ones that were hitting all the small deals, not necessarily the tiniest, but they were just going after volume.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the top sales rep in the company in terms of deals is getting twice as many deals done as anybody else in the company,
Yeah.
but they're still only coming in like 4th in total dollars. That person, you know, in dollars, they kind of fly under the radar a little bit. But the issue then is what happens if one of those accounts drops? I had a large sales rep that not only did he lose his biggest account, it was the company's biggest account.
Mm.
So what happens to his paycheck when that happens? It gets cut
Sure.
by a significant portion. The sales rep that I was working with that hit all these other deals, if he's got, you know, one account that drops, he doesn't even notice it. What he's trying to do is
Spread it.
he was trying to get as many deals done as possible. And then you keep working with those. And it wasn't one of those where, because there were other sales reps that used to do it too, they would try and get as many wins as possible, and then they would never care about the renewal.
Yeah.
They were just going after new deals every time.
You have repeat customers in this business, and it's easy when you don't.
Yeah, this sales rep, there was one sales rep that was never worried about renewal deals because they made more money on new deals than they did renewals.
Yeah.
So they only focused on new deals.
So that's
And
the
that's the wrong
sales
incentive.
side.
Well,
Yeah,
not
that's
just-
that's the company side.
Oh yeah, and so, you know, when that sales rep then doesn't care about the renewals, or he submits a renewal offer that's way higher than what other companies are offering, not only does he lose that,
training,
the company loses that customer for years.
Yeah.
It's going to take years for that company to try and win that customer back because they felt like they got slighted
Yeah.
the last time.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, you know, that sales rep and we realized that we're winning a lot of deals, but every single year we got to do what we can to keep them coming back as well. And that's what made
return on investment, man.
and that's what made our volume of work so tremendous and so tedious, is because we were not just trying to win as many as we could, but trying to keep as many as we could as well.
Yeah, stack it on top.
And that was the other thing that some of the other sales reps would miss out on, is if we would win new deals, but then also kept even half of the previous ones, like, holy shit, now what's our number? Now that sales rep's growing.
Yeah.
And even though we're doing the same amount of work, but it's the retention.
Well, and sometimes it's that merry-go-round of all you got to do is keep that thing spinning. That the established one, you don't necessarily have to like wine and dine them again.
Yeah,
A lot of them you don't.
Well,
you just literally be like, just check in.
and
Just check in.
one of the things you said earlier was about, you know, the company you used to work for. You guys were one of the highest priced companies in the area.
The highest price.
So when I used to do,
I didn't know that, really.
when I used to do,
Yeah, I regret
toxic,
hiring them
when I
for
used
this
to,
move
when I used to
because they
do,
went up even more.
Oh shit.
when I used to
Yeah.
do toxicology and pharmacology, my manager was the one that was responsible for placing bids for contracts.
Hmm.
And we were almost always one of the most expensive offers.
Sure.
And so there were some, there were times where they were, whoever the client was looking at the dollars like, you guys are too expensive. But then if we showed them, well, here's our rate of failures with this particular thing, go compare our failures to some of our competitors' failures. So, but no, that was the thing. There were other companies that were less expensive, but they were having more failures.
So that,
And so it's like, okay, you're getting what you're paying for. Like, yes, we're more expensive. We pay our employees more,
Sure.
but we also train them more. They're better at that job.
As long as the service, so in this industry, get to know your end consumer. Do they care about that?
Well, and so, I mean,
But from a business standpoint, if it makes sense that the retailer, it makes more sense that way, right? There's benefits, there's deals, there's all that stuff. Yeah, I'm going to make more money working with this company versus this company that can't offer that. There's less incentive.
And I've had,
But if the end consumer doesn't care about that, but if you're doing direct sales to the consumer, yeah, it makes sense.
yeah,
To
I
do what
mean,
you're talking about.
I've had times where I've had a customer come in and they're looking for a product, and I may know that product, and I'm like, okay, yeah, if you want to buy that, you go right ahead.
Yeah.
However, if you like that, may I suggest this product?
Sure.
And that product
Yeah, but you're an honest guy.
that product may be, and I use that to my advantage. That product may be less money than what that customer came in looking to buy. But if I sit there and say, no, here's why I like this product. Let me qualify this product, why I think you should try this. If that customer buys that and they end up liking that more than what they came in for, that customer comes back.
Yeah.
So I may
Gotta
lose,
follow through,
I may
right?
lose money on the initial sale, but that customer keeps coming back because
Return on investment.
I'm telling,
relationship.
because I'm trying to build that relationship as a customer.
Yeah.
And play the long game instead of the short game.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a business side. You have to do what's best for the business, but your consumers, your customers that you're selling to, they are your business.
Absolutely.
If you do best by them, that's how you keep them
Agreed.
long term. That's
Agreed.
what keeps you going.
Jake, you got anything to add?
I just want to say thank you for having me on, and
Love having you on.
I really enjoy I really enjoyed this topic because it's been something that I've been wanting to talk about. And we didn't get to talk about everything because
Never do.
we all three of us have really good perspectives on all of it
And lots of stories.
amongst the listeners as well. And it's something that we're going to talk about on Creekside's podcast as well.
Yeah, they're great, man. I wish I had their production value.
Yeah, they do a good job, and they have a large budget, and they know how to do it upright. But we're going to be talking about the same thing as far as of being of service.
When's that?
When?
Yeah, when are you doing that podcast?
We're going to do that podcast the week of our event. I'm doing their event July 31st, and then I'm driving up here and doing our event at Tinder Box on August 1st.
Be happy to share it on the Bourbon BS podcast or community page.
Yeah, I'll talk to
I don't know
David.
if they do Facebook or not.
They don't do Facebook, but it's all on
YouTube,
YouTube. They do a great job at it, but I would love to get Dave up here and be on this podcast and kind of talk about it, and vice versa. Maybe have Nate and Steve go down to their podcast too, because I think the Tinder Box at Easton, Creekside down in Mainville, Ohio, north of Cincinnati, I think B&G's and Dayton, south of Dayton, West Carrollton, I think are great accounts, not just for me, but just great people, great service, great production, great quality, and great abundance of different and a big variety of cigars. I think those are the three big, staples in the state of Ohio anymore. And I think that any rep will say that. That's not just me, because those are my, big accounts.
Sure.
But what I did want to say is, there was something in those comments on Wayne's comments last night that we really didn't touch on, and we don't really have to get into it because I think it's, after all this, I don't think it makes much sense to talk about it, but I think it's important to mention that, you know, there's this discrepancy of what time is worth in this industry, and what is worth a rep's time and what is worth a retailer's time. And I think one question that got mentioned, and I think the big question is amongst retailers and manufacturers and reps, is, you know, how much is that time worth for events, and are events doing well, or are events worth it? And Steve, you kind of touched on it at the beginning of this topic. And, you know, whether it's worth, you know, whether a rep deems it worth $2,000, whether he deems it $10,000 of an event, I think it's just important to still remain and remember the importance of each other's times, time, and respect each other's time. You know, it takes a lot to have, I know for us, for example, Crowned Heads and Oz Family Cigars, we come loaded with cigars when it comes to events.
Good swag.
There's been, and I'm glad that you say that, Steve, because I think we have good swag as far as, you know, lighters and our hats is our shtick. And obviously, like, I take care of you guys because you guys take care of me. But I think that the discrepancy and the kind of the issue here is what is worth the time. And when accounts and retailers seem to think that, you know, spending $2,000 or $3,000, it's a lot of your time and a lot of your money, and it's, you know, you're putting forth the effort on the event. But I think it's important to remember how much time is being put on the reps, and how much effort's being put on the reps perspective in that moment. You know, especially, maybe not for everybody. Maybe a lot of people have, or a lot of bigger brands have marketing accounts, and they just send in an order form and it's done, and they just send a package. For me personally, I have to think of an event package. I look into what does well. I think of a bundle that of cigars that does well at the location already. I think of a bundle that doesn't, that they don't know of, that I want to introduce to people. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into doing these events. And I think that muddying the waters as far as the reps' effort and the retailer's effort, I think kind of misconstrues some opinions there when it comes to both sides. And what I'm trying to say is that I know I spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I try to get things done at least a month in advance. And I really don't appreciate it from the retailer's perspective when they think the things can just be pulled out of a hat, and they expect manufacturers and reps to just come out of thin air within 2 weeks and create an event. I don't think that it's right to promote an event a week before. I think if you schedule an event 3 months prior, you should
I'm posting our event.
I'm not saying you guys.
Jesus.
I'm just saying, like, I sent you guys posters. They should get here tomorrow. But what I'm saying is I think there's a perspective issue that's going on here. And, you know, the bigger companies, you know, expect a lot, I think, when it comes to bigger events, because they want that return on investment. And I totally understand. But, you know, when retailers can't spend $2,000 on a Crowned Heads or Oz Family Cigars event, and they expect the rep to come through and basically sell their cigars, and when they sell out of the product literally at the event, then you need to have that reorder that night or the day after, because I know the psychology of the humidor. If you don't get those facings back up there, you guys are just going to replace it. And I'm speaking to the retailer.
Or we're going to put a customer to something else.
Yes, correct. And so I think that both sides need to do a better job of communicating and understanding the psychology of the humidor, and understanding where the manufacturer's standpoint is and the problems that we deal with, and the retailer's side of what you guys are dealing with. Because I've been part of both sides, and I totally understand both sides. And I think it's very naive and ignorant to say that one side is misconstrued. So
more valuable than the other side.
Correct. That's a better way to put it. And And so I think if we all can and coincide, I think it'll make the industry much better. Within that, I think it starts with service at the retail level, because as much as I want to talk and spend time and spend hours in Tinder Box at Easton or B&G's or Creekside or a number of one of my great accounts across the United States, we can't be there all the time. And you guys have to be, the retailers have to be the advocates for the people that they like, because they buy from the people that they like. And then the consumers buy from the retailers that they like.
Yeah.
And
they trust.
And that they trust. And I think that really, really stands to being of service, greeting people when they come in. Don't get bogged down by if business is going bad and the humidor is low. You have to greet every person as if they were your very first customer. And that was the very first dollar that was ever made in that location. You have to greet people with respect. You have to treat people with respect, and you can't treat everybody like they're stealing from you and project all your anger and issues that you're dealing with your business onto your consumers, because at the end of the day, the brick and mortar, the retailers are the thriving part of this industry, and we need you guys. So
can I add, as people used to do in my closing remarks, you have a responsibility to not let people catch you on a bad day.
Yeah. It's your next t-shirt.
Oh, I like that. Buyjack.com. It's always the relationship, the long-term relationship, because as I'm listening to you, Jake and Nate, one of the things that, and I'm not going to drag this on any further, but at this point in the hour, or the point in the night, not many people are listening, but maybe they will after. It always was a frustration when companies in this industry, even if you just placed an order and you're doing good numbers for the year, that then they were like, but you need to do an event buy-in. You're like, but I already have the inventory because I just placed it like 4 weeks ago.
Totally get that.
Get it, but like some on that comment thread,
which I don't do.
I know you don't, but one of the comments that were on there was like, if they place a $5,000 order for the event and I get 10% and I get $500 of this, like I barely break even if they don't order again.
And there's that problem too,
which
that happens a lot.
I'm sure it does, but
that's their only order for the year.
That's a problem. So now it's like, hey, I'm doing an event in August.
50% of accounts.
I'm doing an event in August, like with you.
Yeah, August 1st.
We're doing that.
Be there.
And it's we've done this much for the year.
Yeah, I know.
Are we in good standings?
Of course.
No, but I'm using it as
He's
an
being
example.
in general.
But there have been reps in the past where it was literally like, yeah, but they won't do the event unless you do this order for the event. I'm like, you said last time I saw you, we were up for the year. Yeah, right. You are.
It's not an event order.
You gotta take a step back.
And that's the company policy. The company's issue.
I know, but the company needs to take a step back, and it's like, okay, you need an event order if they're not at this, but let's be real. They're doing really well, and they have been for the last 2-3 years. They just placed an order and they want to do an event with me. They don't need the product right now. Look at look at the numbers. We should do this to continue the relationship. If all you did in a personal, with your significant other, all you did was go out of your way on Valentine's Day, on your anniversary, and on their birthday, and the rest of the year, you didn't do anything. It's not going to last. Right?
Yeah. Or some
because you're showing you only care 3 days a week.
But some people are like that though.
Yeah.
Some people are like that though. You want to play devil's advocate. Some people only want to give you a $5,000 order once a year, and that's it. That's all they want.
And I think that's up to the judgment of the relationship.
That comes down to every individual account is its own relationship, and you have to treat it as such.
So you gotta get a little less strict, stringent on that. But
I agree.
That being said, guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah. Crown heads.
Hey, one thing I want to add. I'm sorry.
No, we're done.
No,
it's already closed.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So we smoked the Las Calaveras 2016, right?
Yep.
You guys, I really love this blend.
What's it coming out as?
So this year's Las Calaveras will come out in July. This was the 2016 blend. We've been doing it for 11 years. Some people say it's gone bad. Some people say it's gone good, whatever have you. I think that's what makes Las Calaveras so special. It's the Day of the Dead theme, Dia de los Muertos. My Spanish is probably off there, but it's basically paying homage to the folks that we have lost in the prior year. There's initials on every band. This year we're doing the color is green. Last year was pink, or if Miguel, our VP of sales, says Mexican rosado, magenta basically was a pink. This year is going to be green, or I like to say more of a dark emerald. It is a Mexican Claro. I've smoked it. It's fantastic. Regardless of people who say it's gone bad or gone good, whatever. Please ask your retailers for it. Thank you for listening. We smoked a 2016. I am now smoking a 2024. This is the black and the pink. And so they're great. They come in 3 sizes and 1 sampler size with a special size in the sampler. But keep looking for Crowned Heads, the new rebranding, Broadway, brand new from Crowned Heads, Broadleaf, Karatoba from Oz Family Cigars, Ecuadorian Sumatra. You have Mil Diaz Maduro, and La Imperiosa.
It's terrible stuff.
New
It's terrible
rebranding.
stuff.
So it's all good.
Hate all.
I think
of
it's good.
We hate all of it here at the podcast.
Yeah, I figured that's why you keep smoking it, motherfucker. So it's I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. My name's Jake. Thanks, Steve, Nate, for having me on the Bourbon and BS podcast. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.